It's about fucking time we got through this shit.
Damn Skippy.
Alright, a quick thing. We had this shit planned since the game came out, or at least since the game came. I finished it 3 days in a week, and like not in a week. What the fuck? 3 days in one weekend, and then I called this motherfucker, and I was talking about the story and how I thought about the game, and then we were like, "Hey, we should do a SluCast about this." 2 months later, here we are right now. So let's get to it.
Yeah. Long story short, my laptop broke down. Then midterms came around, and yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys can get the rest.
Yeah. I have no excuse. I was just waiting.
Yeah, you were the same here.
Okay.
I'm dumb.
So, a little known fact about the two of us, but we are both fans of this franchise, the Kingdom Hearts franchise. We've known about it for a long time, and we've anticipated this game since its announcement, or at least in my case, since Kingdom Hearts 2 back in 2005. And now it's here. So, the big question is, was it all worth it?
We'll be answering that as we go along with this review. But first, we want to talk about how we both got into the series.
I feel like this is the most important one of the bunch, because this is the one where we had to point out where we stand with this franchise and why we feel the way we do feel. So I will gladly go first. So back in my days, when I was just a wee little toddler, yes, me being 22 years old, and I've been playing this franchise since I was in the first grade. My first console was the PlayStation 1. That's how far back we're going. However, my sister got a PlayStation 2. And, she had like a couple of games, and I remember I would always be interested in playing the PlayStation 2 as opposed to the PlayStation 1. One of the first games I played was the first Kingdom Hearts. And it wasn't until I got a PlayStation 2 of my own that I've actually did pour in some hours into that game and many others. But Kingdom Hearts was the most special of the bunch. It was the very first game I've actually beaten from start to finish, believe it or not. It was the game that I felt like I had the most replay value over, and it was the first game that I was actually invested into its story. A lot of people can easily say that The Legend of Zelda got them into their own grand lore and adventurous genre, but to me, Kingdom Hearts was the one that captured that exact same feeling. It's no secret for me to say, but Kingdom Hearts 1 is actually my favorite game of all time, and I argue that it's actually one of the best well-made games ever made. It holds a special place in my heart that when rumors were going around that Kingdom Hearts 2 was becoming a thing, and I saw the commercials for Chain of Memories, I was like, that's the Kingdom Hearts 2 that everybody's talking about, clearly. When I got Chain of Memories, I know a lot of people don't really like that game. I personally have a huge nostalgic bias towards the game, because I personally do love Chain of Memories, despite its clearly inferior to the original. But I poured a lot of hours into Chain of Memories. I like the story of Chain of Memories a lot, and I like the new characters that they're introduced, which translates to Kingdom Hearts 2 when they introduced the Organization 13 and pretty much made everything that was already good about the first game arguably better in this one. From a gameplay standpoint, Kingdom Hearts 2 was the one that I really enjoyed the most. But the simplicity of the story and the simplicity of its gameplay will always make me prefer the first one over the rest of the series. The other games, they kind of go back and forth with me. Some of them I'm alright with, but then there are others that I really can't stand and to look at. Dream Drop Distance.
About all of them?
Huh? No, I'm not going to really talk about them because I really don't have much of a connection with the other games as opposed to 1, Chain of Memories, and 2. But there are some games I like and others that I don't. And all those games would eventually lead to how I feel towards Kingdom Hearts 3. But yeah, just to clarify, Dream Drop Distance is my least favorite.
Okay.
So that's my history with the franchise. So now I give it to you.
Okay, so my history is not as lengthy as Marcus. I started playing Kingdom Hearts around the time my first niece was born, so that was around 2012. Marcus and another friend of ours, Francisco, who has appeared on this channel as well, how they were talking about the game and how they liked it and how I should totally get into it. And I was a bit skeptical at first, but I decided to try it out. And I got a copy of Kingdom Hearts 2 for the PlayStation 2. And I immediately fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the story and the characters. It was so charming, just so much fun. And I skipped days because I heard some people that didn't like it and that it was boring. I ended up seeing the movie that appeared on the, I think it was 2.5 remix.
That's on the PS3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I played Birth by Sleep, and oh my god, I actually loved it. I don't love the gameplay, but I loved the story of it.
Birth by Sleep has been the only other Kingdom Hearts game that I was actually excited for before 3. Oh yeah, and a little side note, I was probably one of the few people that actually did play every single Kingdom Hearts spin-off in handhelds, because it just so happens that I had the DS, PSP, and the 3DS.
I have not. I've only been able to play one of the handhelds. Actually, no, two of the handhelds. Dream Drop, which I didn't like, and Birth by Sleep, which I did like. And only one of the main series games, so only Kingdom Hearts 2. I haven't played 1 yet. Still waiting on Marco to give me his copy of 1.
Well, if you need on the PlayStation 2, I'll gladly give you my copy.
Alright.
But yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Kingdom Hearts really got me into, I wouldn't say it got me into the fantasy genre, but it got me into writing, and it really inspired a story that I've been writing myself.
And which
but don't worry, it's not as unnecessarily complicated as Kingdom Hearts.
I was about to say, the irony is that, like, that's the series that got you into writing is the one that has the most
I know, right?
the most plot conveniences and the most plot holes I think I've ever seen in any franchise, but that's besides the point. So
well, the story wasn't as complicated.
I genuinely did like it leading up to 2.
When the most recent game was still recoded.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, and I think I really did like the story leading up to 2, and this is me like counting Birth by Sleep and days and stuff like that. In reality, it was really when Dream Drop Distance rolled on the corner where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing to the fucking Dream Drop Distance, in short, is like the Last Jedi in my eyes.
Yeah. Except it's not as divisive. Everyone just hates it.
Yeah, and unlike Dream Drop, I actually liked
it.
Like, and a side note, unlike Dream Drop Distance, I actually like The Last Jedi, but that's a story for another time, for another SluCast, when Episode 9 gets announced. Now, as I mentioned before, like, a little briefly, but Birth by Sleep was really the last Kingdom Hearts game that I was actually pretty excited for. Because I remember seeing a lot of gameplay about the game, and I was really curious about it. I got the game eventually, and I like it just fine, but I did have some gripes. But I haven't been excited for a Kingdom Hearts game, or really rather love the Kingdom Hearts game since 2, I'd say. So this was the first Kingdom Hearts game that I was actually pretty excited for a while. And so I'm going to give you like a brief review, I guess you can say, on the game itself before we tackle the story. Starting with the combat itself. I genuinely did like the combat in this game. I know a lot of people can complain about the floatiness, but I think it kind of makes up with its variety of different options of its gameplay. For instance, you can actually switch between keyblades mid-combat, which adds a lot of diversity. The one that I ended up finishing with is the Wheel of Fates from the Pirates of the Caribbean world, which is like excellent in strength. Ever After from Rapunzel's world, where it's really good with magic, and it also has Leaf Bracer as its customizable ability. And Nano Gear from Big Hero 6, which is a very balanced Keyblade, but it arguably has the best form change in the game, next to, in my opinion, I'd say the Kingdom Key. Well, the Kingdom Key is really my personal favorite form change. The best one is pretty subjective. I think the Pirates of the Caribbean's Keyblade could be best, but in my opinion, I feel like
it would have to be second form. I'm just a big Kingdom Hearts 2 fan, so second form for me is my favorite.
I agree. It's probably my favorite as well, but I can probably I can gush in about the form changes in a minute, but to simply say that I don't think that the floaty change really held it back in this one compared to, say, a fragmentary passage, as I felt like a fragmentary passage had like a bunch of obscenely, ridiculously strong opponents. There was only one instance in which I did feel the floaty gameplay did feel annoying, and that was the optional boss fight against Dark Inferno, where being in the air against that fight was a nightmare. You pretty much want to be on the ground, but that enemy will pretty much make sure you're in the air with him, and he will fuck you up.
Yeah, the amount of complaints I heard about Fragmentary Passage has been a lot. Like, mostly excitement, because it's the closest thing to a KH3 demo we got at the time.
I personally like the Fragmentary Passage, but my main problem is just how some of the normal enemies are just ridiculously annoying to fight because of the floaty gameplay. But that's all made up with how created but that's all made up because how fucking great the magic is, which leads me to the next thing. I think the magic is excellent in KH3. It's the one I mean, I've used magic, of course, in the other games, more specifically like the main elemental ones like Fire, Blizzard, and Thunder, and I kind of mix up the other ones based on the opponents I'm fighting. However,
finally added a water spout.
In 2, I primarily used Magnet and Thunder. But this game, I think I've used the most magic in any Kingdom Hearts game, and I think I enjoy using magic in this one than even the main combat. So much so that when critical mode comes out, I might, but don't take my word for it, I might go for a mage set, because I genuinely did love the magic in this game. Blizzard, Fire, and the water spell, especially with the Wheel of Fate Keyblade, using water is fucking excellent. Water is probably my favorite element in the game, but it's pretty close to Blizzard in this one. I haven't used much Arrow, to be fair, so I really don't have much of an opinion on Arrow. But I feel like the main elemental ones are just excellent in this game. So magic is an A+ for me. Then we have Flow Motion. I was never a big fan of Flow Motion, even back when Dream Drop Distance. And a Fragmentary Passage. I can say that it's fine in this game. I really did not depend on it at all when I went through the game for the first time. It might change when critical mode comes into play, but it just kind of came and went. So I'm not going to say it's really a bad thing, but I can definitely say it's better than in Dream Drop Distance, where there are moments in which I keep accidentally bouncing into a wall and just doing all this ridiculous, crazy shit. So this game, I actually feel like I can actually control myself. But Flow Motion is not really bad in this game, but it's just not my cup of tea. It's not something that I really use to wipe out as many enemies as possible. So
sorry for interrupting, but for me, the Flow Motion, I feel like, I don't know, it just kind of makes sense to add, because since 2, Nomura has always given Sora and Riku these like crazy acrobatic feats. Like if you see the final boss fight in 2 with Xemnas, like when he's throwing the buildings at you and Sora's just leaping on them and like slicing them in the air. It makes sense to include them, but I didn't like how they were implemented in Dream Drop.
Yeah.
And 3, and I haven't played 3 yet, but from what I've seen in terms of gameplay footage and what from Marker and others have told me, as well as what I've heard from reviewers, is that it's a lot more balanced in this game.
I'd say it's definitely better than in Dream Drop Distance, for sure.
Yeah.
The attractions, on the other hand, is probably the only negative thing I'll really say about the gameplay. It's not that they're terrible, but I feel like they make the game... Okay, in my opinion, they slow the pacing down a little bit, but they do have a skipping sequence, so I guess it's fine, but to me, the game is already way too easy. And this game, with the attractions, it just makes it... way easier than it already is. Like, without it, it's just fine in terms of the difficulty, which I already find the game to be way too easy. But attraction flows just make the game ridiculously easier to clear out enemies, and there are some that are better than others. Off the top of my head, the blaster one is really good. The carousel one is really good. The one with the water, like they look. Yeah, the splash run, that was it. That one was ridiculously easy. But, like, They're not bad, but they really got in the way. They really overstayed their welcome. I find myself using them a lot more than I should, and I got to the point where I just didn't even bother if I had them. I use them occasionally in the boss fights, and it's really retarded using the fucking blaster against Zigbar and Riku Replica in their boss fights.
It's the funniest shit seeing, like, using the pirate ship on top of the Flying Dutchman in the Caribbean.
Oh my god. Hopefully when I do my critical run of KH3, I'll probably get that, because that would actually be hilarious.
I'm sure they'll fix it, like the attraction. I'm sure it won't appear as common in critical mode, because it is a very common complaint I've heard across the board from everyone.
Yeah, but they're not terrible, but I can probably live with less of them. Maybe have them very occasionally, or none at all. I'll probably go through the entire critical mode without even using them if I have to. And now the next one, the camera function is not really the biggest. It's not the most in-depth gameplay mechanic of the bunch, but it's a nice little feature that they add. I think the best things about the use of the camera function is, of course, finding the emblems. I have not found all of them, but it's actually kind of interesting to see how creative they can actually be when it comes to hiding the lucky emblems. They're not really obvious to find, and they are not, I'd say they're definitely worth looking into. I'm not sure how big of the rewards are in the game, but in terms of the camera function, they provide some really good memes and a really good challenge to look for the lucky emblems, so I think it's a nice little touch.
From what I've heard with the lucky emblems, they determine if you get the secret endings or not. Like, you need to get a specific amount in each difficulty to get the secret ending. And oddly enough, and I think it's in easy mode, in beginner mode, sorry, they you have to find the more lucky emblems to get the secret ending than proud mode.
Oh, okay, that sounds pretty fair, actually.
Now, for form changes, Marker, what are your thoughts on the form changes?
Oh, the form changes are really good. I guess they do have a similar issue with the attractions in the sense that they do have an animation that lasts a little bit longer than they need to, but they do.
Skip that.
Huh?
So yeah, there's a way in the game where you can make the animation shorter.
But I was gonna say, but there is a benefit to it. At least this is what I discovered when I was fighting Dark Inferno, is that the animations give you invincibility. So I feel like it actually helps as opposed to hurt, and they're not broken unlike the attractions. So to me, the animation, the introductions are welcome additions, especially if they do implement more harder bosses. I do think that I might actually be keeping the animations from here. As for the form changes gameplay themselves, I think they are really well implemented. I think there are some form changes that it gives a lot of variety into the Keyblades. I will say there's only one complaint I have, is that I've noticed that I can't really think of which ones, but I believe there were 2 Keyblades in particular that had the same ones. The Monsters Inc. Keyblade.
Those were the Ratatouille Keyblade, and I forget what it's called, but the Winnie the Pooh Keyblade.
That one, and I believe there was something with Monsters Inc. as well, but I may be wrong.
The Agile Claw from the Monsters Inc. Keyblade and the Blizzard Claw from the Frozen Keyblade are the same weapon. The only thing that's different is their final form, which for the Monsters Inc. Keyblade, it's the yo-yos, and for the Frozen one, it is the Blizzard Blade.
Yeah, but for the most part, I'd say they were really good. My personal favorites were the second form with the Kingdom Key one, the one from the Toy Story's Keyblade, the one where you basically have a big
Punch, I think it's called.
Yeah, I really enjoyed using that one when I was in Rapunzel's world. That was a really good Keyblade. Believe it or not, the 100 Acre Wood one I really liked.
Really? That's interesting.
And because it was a really good zoning, it was a really good projectile Keyblade when I was using the forms.
That's good.
But I think I'm gonna give it all to the Wheel of Fate Keyblade, because that one, it makes using the water elements really fun because it's like a cannon. It feels like it's a cannon fodder, but it also has a lot of range and a really good combo utility, and it really goes really well if you power up its strength, which is something that I actually appreciate. The fact that if there's some Keyblade, rather than just replacing the Keyblade you had, you can easily power it up in the Moogle shop, and then you can keep using the Keyblade that you personally like best, which is definitely going to be good.
As well.
Which is definitely going to be good among my replay value because I personally like the Ever After Keyblade in terms of being a magic Keyblade, and I would like to continue using it in my next run of KH3 when Critical Mode hits in.
Yeah, I've never been much of a magic user, but when I do play KH3, I will be trying out the Ever After Keyblade, which looks absolutely amazing.
Alright, and now we're gonna talk about, and now I get the playable characters as so do I talk about the other playable characters besides Sora, or do I just talk about the ones that were playable?
I mean, for this section it was really just in our list we have it organized as playable characters as party members, so those include Riku, Mickey, Aqua, Ventus, Roxas, Shion, and Axel/Lee. But I guess you can talk about Sora as well and notice his I guess show his differences between the other two playable characters within the story, which were, by the story I mean like this game, which were Riku and Aqua.
Okay, well, a quick synopsis, since I basically talk about all the things you can pretty much do with Sora, but this is probably my second favorite game to play as Sora. Whereas Kingdom Hearts 2 will still take the cake because of how ridiculously fun the gameplay of KH2 is.
Yeah.
However, this one, because it gives you a lot of options and variety, and a lot of options to mess around with, much like in KH2, this game you have. You can either use magic sets, you can go full combat, you have different options in terms of Keyblades that you can use, and you can even power them up. So in my opinion, this just goes on par with the Kingdom Hearts 2 form, which admittedly, they made it, I guess, a little bit more offensive. This one has a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? No, I'm diversity. I guess I'm not really sure diversity.
It is a lot more diverse. Kingdom Hearts 2 had its fair share of diversity. You could have a magic set. You could have a full-on physical set. But and KH3 just takes that up a notch. It makes it so much more diverse with your options. You could run an offensive magic set. You could run a full-on magic set. You could run full-on offensive.
Okay, now KH1 you can still do it, but I feel like KH1 it was more people played aggressively, which led to the gameplay of KH2. But in my opinion, it got a little bit better as the series progressed because KH2, while it seems more offensive based, it does have a lot of room for diversity in it.
Because the magic in KH and KH1 wasn't as diverse as it was in 2, and it didn't contribute much to combos, and you couldn't combo into magic either.
Yeah.
Magic was mostly used for range attacks, and in 1, except with Blizzard, because Blizzard acts like a shotgun blast, where it just spreads out the farther it goes.
Yeah, I like the magic in KH1, but admittedly, it's not really as
well diverse.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 main games.
Yeah, so Sora's a solid A+ in this one.
Yeah, I like Sora.
Riku, I enjoyed. Riku, even though you only play as him once, I really did enjoy playing as him.
Twice.
Yeah. Twice. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But the 2 times I did get to play as Riku, I did enjoy playing him. I really wish there were more sections where you did play as him, but I feel like he's a lot more just aggressive, and the only thing I have a little bit of complaint about is that he only has 2 magic spells, which would be Thunder and Cure. But I really wish Dark Firaga was just a normal magic spell.
I agree, but it does. I mean, Riku's never been known for his magic, so I feel like it makes sense that he should be limited in his magic. But yeah, I do agree.
I'm not sure about Thunder. I'm not sure he should be using Thunder though. Is the thing. I think if Dark Firaga would have been a much better substitute.
Yeah. You should have used Dark Firaga instead of Thunder.
Yeah, but outside of that, Riku is just
he still uses Dark Firaga. It's just it's just something you have to charge up with combos.
Yeah, but despite that, Riku's still a fun character to play. He's definitely more aggressive, and I definitely think it suits really well in the sense that because in KH3 you kind of start pretty weak as Sora. You start as your little baby level 1 form, but Riku's pretty much pure level 100, and he's a powerhouse. Like, he's basically like how the way you start off in Castlevania Symphony of the Nights when you're like fucking broken as hell, but then like, was it Death that took? Yeah, Death is the one that like takes everything away. So. You're basically like a pussy in Symphony of the Nights, but so it's basically like that.
Do that in games. It makes for such a great narrative tool. Like, it gives you a goal to strive for.
Yeah, and then the only other character that you do play as is Aqua. But Aqua, to me, plays exactly like in Fragmentary Passage. Not saying it's a bad thing, but I think this definitely showed that a Fragmentary Passage was, I guess, supposed to be part of 3.
Oh, it was.
So
the Fragmentary Passage was originally going to be the prologue for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Which I'm not sure if I would have
decided to release it as its own thing for 2.8.
Yeah, I guess I would have had the same complaint as I did have with KH2, in the sense that, like, Roxas' side of the story took a little bit too long before it actually got somewhere, and a Fragmentary Passage seemed longer than that, so I think it was a much better decision like that. She still plays exactly the same as she did in a Fragmentary Passage. It only threw me off a little bit because I had my magic sets set in a certain way in a Fragmentary Passage, and they kind of have like a default customization for you. You still have your fires, blizzards, thunders, and magic and cure, and then you still have Spellweaver, but to me it was like a little bit distracting in the sense that you couldn't really customize your moves with Aqua. But that's just me personally, but outside of that, she still plays like Aqua in a Fragmentary Passage. If you enjoyed Aqua in a Fragmentary Passage, you're going to enjoy her for the one time you play her in this one. And that's really all. And that's all. Those are the 3 characters you play as in KH3. Now, as party members, I can really...
Can I add something? It is a crime that Aqua, whose name means water in Latin, does not have the water spell.
Oh yeah, maybe they didn't think about that. And unironically, you did fight some water-ish opponents in a Fragmentary Passage.
Wait, what?
There were like some weird water, like Heartless in a Fragmentary Passage.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, there's that.
Not a spell.
All right, so I'll bring a quick rundown on the characters that were playable but then became party members. Riku, I mean, he's basically the same as he was when you do play as him, just a party member. He heals you, and he, I don't know, he's Riku. Mickey's exactly.
Still?
Huh?
He has Dark Firaga still. He'll use that every now and again.
Yeah, Mickey is basically the Yoda of fucking Kingdom Hearts. He basically plays exactly like he almost plays exactly like the one where you play as him in KH2. He's really short. He does a lot of damage, and he does like I guess a holy magic.
And he heals. He heals.
That too. I don't remember ever
like
that.
A paladin without the defense.
Yeah, you gotta understand that these characters are a little bit blur out of my mind because they're only party members like once or twice. Mickey, I believe.
Understandable.
Yeah, so if I get something wrong, forgive me. Aqua, same thing basically. Ventus, wow, what the fuck does Ventus even do?
Okay, so Ventus, and there's I should have linked this to you before the podcast. Ventus. So what Ventus does is that he does. In the fight against Vanitas and Terranort, Ventus will use, he will use, I think it's called Tornado Raid or Arrow Raid. It's a ability exclusive to him in Birth by Sleep, where he sends out his Keyblade and you can kind of control where it goes. And it homes at the, I think it also homes at the target as well.
Okay.
And it hits multiple times. It's a really cool ability that I really liked from Birth by Sleep. And he does a regular Keyblade combo. He doesn't really do much in terms of magic, I think. I don't even think he has any spells.
Yeah, that's the one I was really thinking about. Like, doesn't he do magic?
He literally just runs up to Vanitas, smacks him a couple times, and then throws his Keyblade at him.
Yeah. Roxas is basically... Roxas does the fucking Oathkeeper and Oblivion duo combo, like, or in other words, Zero Form in Days, which is basically no different from that. He basically goes ham on Psyx. I would assume...
like how he does in his boss fight in Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts 2, which I absolutely love. Okay, Roxas is my child. Fight me.
Shion plays exactly like her playable, like almost her exact same party member in Days, or the one you do play as her in the mission mode, basically. And Axel is also seems like he also, like, I feel like the only difference between Axel in this fight and basically his KH2 form is that all his moves, like, come from his Keyblade, and it looks like he can actually split it into chakrams on his own. I've noticed that, like, when I was rewatching some of the gameplay at least. I feel like Axel's the one I could really talk a little bit more in depth about because he actually does play a little bit similar just by using completely different weapons.
I mean, it makes sense so that he would try and adapt his chakram fighting style into his Keyblade, and you can kind of see that in both his fight with Saix and Shion, and his like the little moves that he does in the cutscenes that you see him with his Keyblade.
Alright, now, party members. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible.
Since there are a lot.
Yeah. And I'm not, and forgive me, but there's going to be some that I'm going to be really iffy about. More specifically, the ones that have 2 party members. Okay, so Donald, he's pretty terrible in this one. I find Donald. Do you remember the meme of Donald not healing you?
Yeah.
I feel like it's more common in this one than in any other Kingdom Hearts game. I haven't really had a.
Customized it to make it that he heals you?
I did. However, there's a couple things wrong. So Donald is pretty responsive in KH1. I didn't have a single problem with him in KH1, really. So Donald is solid in that game. KH2, it's only really a problem when he actually does heal himself or Goofy or someone. And of course, KH2 was the one that introduced the concept of draining all your MP if you use Cure. It's a good thing in my opinion because Cure is pretty broken, let's be fair.
Yeah.
However, if Donald does have magic, I find he would be more responsive to heal you in KH2 than how he is in KH3. In KH3, even if you do have it set that he would reserve his MP and focus on healing you specifically and not drain his MP when he spams magic to the point of him having nothing, you pretty much have to, if you want him to heal you, he has to be, he takes his sweet precious time before he's like, oh wait, you're on low health. Here, let me get you there, buddy. Sometimes I feel like I had to be right next to the duck just so that way the dude can heal me. So, in my opinion,
heals you more.
So, in my opinion, this is the worst iteration of Donald. I'd say, actually no, Chain of Memories is pretty garbage, but Chain of Memories is pure RNG anyway, so that doesn't count too much.
Yeah.
Goofy, he's awesome in KH1, 2, Chain of Memories, and he's still awesome in this one. I don't remember if Goofy Tornado was in this game, to be honest. However, I feel like Goofy has his fucking awesome, I guess it's sort of like a reaction command thing where you fucking.
Bombardier.
Yeah.
Where you kind of jump on his shield, he launches you into the air, and then you throw him down.
That's my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, Bombardier, I love that.
And the other one is when you actually get behind his shield and start bashing a bunch of enemies with armor. It's fucking great. Goofy is amazing in this game. He's always been awesome. I've always preferred Goofy over Donald, honestly.
Donald's just kind of me whenever I'm pissed.
Hercules. Hercules is actually pretty good in this game. However, I do have one funny little nitpick. I feel like when he throws the rock, I feel like his frame rates drop to like 15 frames. I swear, it's the funniest thing ever. When I was replaying the game with Alec, I was just telling him to please focus on Hercules when he's throwing the rock. There is something weird about him. He is not stable when he's throwing that rock. It seems like the entire game is like running in 60 frames per second, but Hercules himself, when he uses that move, drops frame rates up the ass. And it's not even the game. It's just him. It's weird. And I feel like it sounds crazy, but he just doesn't look natural when he's throwing the rock. Outside of that, no, he's still pretty good. He's still solid, like powerhouse in my opinion. Like I think he's way better than when you actually have to fight him, where he's like pathetically easy. I much prefer him as a party member than anything. Okay, Woody and Buzz. All right, I can only talk about Buzz really. As far as I'm aware of, Buzz just shoots lasers, and Woody just flails his arm. That's all I can really remember.
Lasso.
Oh wow, I didn't even know he had a lasso with him. Mike and Sully. As far as I'm aware of, Sully is the powerhouse and Mike just rolls around. That's all I really remember.
And Mike will also he'll try and get the enemy's attention, and then the Heartless and the Unversed will go towards him.
Well, that's a neat little mechanic in my opinion.
Yeah, but still it's still not as good as Magnet or even like Chicken Little's like pseudo magic in his little summon thing.
Oh, the summons. We didn't put that.
Oh, well, we can talk about that now after the party members.
Marshmallow. Easily my favorite party member of the bunch. He is the definition of powerhouse. I really liked using him. I like the reaction where you're actually riding him and I guess playing as him for a little bit. He's easily my favorite party member of the bunch, and I honestly, I have not gone back to Frozen after beating it, so I hope that he still remains as a party member because I genuinely good, because I genuinely do like the guy. Rapunzel and Flynn. I don't even remember the single thing what Flynn does. Rapunzel, as far as I'm aware of, uses her hair.
Flynn, no joke, he will either smack the enemy with a frying pan or he'll ride on a barrel. And he'll just randomly spawn a barrel underneath him and then he'll just ride it and hit someone with it.
Okay, well, that's neato.
Rapunzel missed opportunity. They could have made her like a healer in this game, and they didn't. Rapunzel's just like, I'm gonna smack you with my hair, and I'm gonna ride on this tree branch with my hair.
Alright, Baymax is the most fun of the bunch. I think Baymax is better than Donald in the sense that he's a better healer than Donald, and I actually had less problems with Baymax than Donald. I did like his little reaction when you had to actually fight him, and I liked the fight, and I absolutely adored the fight between him and the Heartless Baymax in Big Hero 6. Jack Sparrow. I can't really remember what he does.
He plays almost the exact same as Cage too.
Which
loosely. He'll still throw bombs at the opponent. He'll still slash around his sword. I don't know if he has like the 4,000 draws that he had in Cage too.
The thing is, Pirates of the Caribbean is in itself. You're focused on the ship parts to the point that I don't remember any. Like, I only remember a couple things that you even do in the main in Port Royal and stuff like that.
It was becoming like, I say popular loosely because it was popular for like a day. But I feel like CSDs was like getting traction at the time, and Nomura was just like, yo, Pirates of the Caribbean 3 is literally my favorite movie in that franchise. That's not a joke, he actually says that.
Oh my god, that made me cringe.
Yeah, and wait for it. And he was probably just like, yo, let's just add this because it's popular now. Just like big open worlds, and then look how Final Fantasy 15 ended up.
Oh god! Exactly. All right, listen. I understand. I don't mind Caribbean. Like, I thought the reason why he added it is because Pirates 5 was released when Cage 3 was in development. I didn't think At World's End was his favorite Pirates of the Caribbean. Listen, man, At World's End is actually my. At World's End is first.
I don't think that's in an interview or in a tweet, but like, it's just the funniest thing. It's funny to me how the most complicated film in the entire franchise is Nomura's favorite.
Which goes perfectly well with how this franchise is. Honestly, At World's End is actually my second least favorite pirate film in the franchise, right next to the obvious one on Stranger Tides. I can't stand At World's End sometimes.
Stranger Tides, was that the one with Penelope Cruz?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one.
That is still my least favorites, but I think At World's End is still the second worst.
Yeah.
I mean, Dead Man Tell No Tale is not really that good either, but I still think it's better than At World's End.
The last party member that you don't play as, this isn't counting the other playable characters, is Kairi. So, Kairi in this game
sucks.
She dies pretty early. She plays as like a lesser version of Aqua. She will heal. As a combination of Aqua and Mickey, to an extent, like she will heal. She'll cast Holy. I think she'll cast Fire as well. I'm not sure. She has a little bit of an air combo. She has a ground combo, and that's about it. She has pretty shitty defense, just like Aqua. Only Aqua, for some reason, lives way longer than Kairi.
I have an entire thing with Kairi that I'm going to rephrase when we get there. Let's move on. So, huh?
You were going to say something, but I interrupted.
Oh no, I'm just saying the fact that there's this little special thing that I'm going to talk about with Kyrie, but I will phrase that to when we talk about the story and the characters.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's discuss the leaks.
No.
So, as some of you know, Kingdom Hearts 3 was leaked a couple months before it was released. At first, it was just the ending and the opening movie. But then it escalated to story cutscenes and basically everything else. Even the whole soundtrack was leaked before the game came out.
I initially did have an idea of doing a SluCast of KH3 before the game came out and we would have it like where we talk about the last few worlds that did get confirmed and we talk about the leak. A couple things. One, I refrained from doing that because we were by the time it was December when I even thought about doing that, and by then the game was about to come out, so I was thinking, well, you should just, if we were to talk about KH3, it would be a review or something, so I didn't think it was needed. Second,
I didn't think this review would take as long to get prepared as it has, so
yeah, so I didn't even dare touch about the leaks. And second, I tried. I didn't think it would be wise because I initially thought about using footage about the leaks, but then I thought, wait, that's a shitty idea. Third, random shit just happened, and I just never really got around to it.
Yeah.
So
you guys know what happened on my end, so.
But I'll tell you the one thing I did get spoiled in, and that was the fight between Aqua and Vanitas, which not the worst way to get spoiled, in my opinion. However, I did know someone that got spoiled that Terra was the Guardian in the Terranort fights. So I would assume if I got spoiled, I would know if I got spoiled by that, I would be more upset. But not as upset as what you got spoiled on.
Yeah, I got spoiled on two pretty major cutscenes. The first one was Roxas's return, which we all knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah, but I wanted to fanboy. I would not want that to get ruined.
And I wanted it to have the same flow to it as it was intended to in the game. And I wanted his return to be a surprise because I can just imagine my reaction, knowing that Roxas still isn't around, and just having come in to save Axel and Shion. I felt like I probably would have cried.
Oh, I love that scene when I first played through it.
Too. It's my favorite scene in the game, but still.
I know, but dude, I didn't get spoiled. I played through that shit, and I was like, yes, fucking finally.
The next thing that I got spoiled with was the scene where Xemnas is talking to members 9 through 12 of the original organization. So those are Demyx, Marluxia, Larxene, and Luxord. So,
I'm not sure if I would have gotten that.
Not major, because we'd already been confirmed that these members have returned. But it basically said that, I know you guys were in Union Cross, so you guys are going to tell me everything about that. And they apparently did. I don't know. We have a whole section about that set up, and yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that.
We skipped the summons. Here, let me go quick about the summons real quick. Okay, the Dream Eater. I didn't really bother with this one. I think this is...
Okay, Wreck-It Ralph. What did you feel about Wreck-It Ralph summon?
He was fun, but I feel like he kind of sucks.
Okay, Stitch.
Stitch? Oh, I actually never used Stitch, to be honest. I see that he's the last one, but I actually never used Stitch.
Okay, Dream Eaters.
It's okay. It's fun to use sometimes, but it's not really the best one in my opinion.
Okay, Ariel.
I enjoyed it. I think it's better than using the fucking water park ride. What's it called? It's better than the attraction flow water ride in my opinion. I enjoy using Ariel a lot.
Okay, and last but not least, Simba.
This is gonna make Kat happy, but Simba is actually my favorite summon in the game. I love Simba.
I'm not surprised. He seems like the best one.
Yeah. So, Kat's a big fan of Lion King, the movie, and she really loved the Pride Lands world. And the fact that she now knows that Simba's actually my favorite summon in the game got her more excited to play KH3.
Also, you get to ride on a giant fire lion. Who wouldn't want that?
It's the best design one and the best gameplay one, and it's the one that clears out the Heartless, in my opinion, better and more earned than the attractions, in my opinion.
Okay,
So
now let's talk about the story.
I'd say Ariel's my second favorite.
Yeah. Wait, Ariel was your second favorite?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 takes place right after where we left off in Fragmentary Passage, where Sora goes to get in Sid's Tower alongside Donald and Goofy and has a mission to retrieve his previous powers as well as to have the power of waking. This is because Sora in Dream Drop Distance, I almost said Birth by Sleep again, in Dream Drop Distance lost his powers because he almost fell to darkness.
It's a pretty good explanation as to why you're not as strong as you were in, say, KH2 and Dream Drop Distance, in my opinion. So I'll give credits to Square Enix for always giving a good explanation of why Sora's weaker in each game, as opposed to just randomly deciding to get weaker for the sake of getting weaker.
Yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah. So they go to Olympus Coliseum and they do basically the story of, well, the final act of the Hercules movie where Hades unleashes the Titans onto the world, and he's trying to conquer Olympus.
Wait, I thought we were doing a summary of Kingdom Hearts 3, not Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Oh yeah, this prologue section is called Kingdom Hearts 2.9 because Nomura's an asshole.
Oh man, it was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, Sora fails to regain his old powers even though he unlocks second form. So, temporary regaining of his powers? I don't know. But yeah, so he now has a new mission, and that is to go and train to get stronger and get back the power of waking.
Or really...
Riku and Miki are in the realm of darkness searching for Aqua. After Sora goes around saving Disney World, Riku damages his Keyblade, gets a new one from Merlin, and Sora continues, mucking around in Disney Worlds. And these Disney Worlds, he also meets up with some of the organization's members. He meets up with Vanitas in Monstropolis, Larkstein in Arendelle, Marluxia in Kingdom of Corona, young Xehanort in the Toy Box. Who else am I missing? Dark Riku in San Francisco. And am I missing anyone else? Luxord in
Luxord in Pirates of the Caribbean. I almost forgot about.
And Zigbar in Olympus, and Ansem and Xemnas in Twilight Town.
Almost all of them, basically.
Basically, almost all of them, except the ones that have like a big reveal. Even though one of them didn't, and the other one is more like, how did you get back? Which we'll talk about that when we talk about that.
Yeah. So
that's a whole nother section for me. So let's see. What else happened in the story? So after Sora does his thing in Disney Worlds, Riku and Mickey are both in trouble, and they find out that Aqua has been
Norded.
Has sort of fallen. Well, yeah, kind of. She's sort of fallen into darkness. And she has a Norded look. This is after a confrontation with Ansem Seeker of Darkness, who tried to find Ansem the Wise. Because as we know, by the end of Birth by Sleep, which takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2,
the secret ending of Birth by Sleep, to be exact.
Become BFFs. Yeah. And this whole Ansem plotline is really just set up for the next Kingdom Hearts game, which we'll talk about it when we talk about it. But what else am I missing? Point is, everyone gets together. Everybody saves the good guys. Happy ending, except for Sora, really. Yeah, everyone's okay except Sora. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about Yerzura.
Yerzura!
So.
Okay. Now, general thoughts on the story and how it was handled. So, I feel like the story suffers from sagging middle syndrome, which is when the beginning and the end are fantastic, but the middle isn't very good.
I don't really agree that much about... Okay, I admit the middle part was bad, but... Okay. I'm already a big hater on Dream Drop Distance. There's a reason why it's my least favorite Kingdom Hearts game. I know a lot of people are gonna immediately point out that Days Recoded and fucking what's the other one? Chain of Memories are the three worst ones. But in my opinion, I feel like Dream Drop Distance is the one that tears the story apart big time.
I agree. It's the one that usually has the most plot holes in the series, and also is the most confusing. I mean, they try and explain some of it in Kingdom Hearts 3, which I applaud Square Enix for doing that, but it's like, it's still so needlessly complicated.
So, basically, I don't really have much to say about the beginning. I can't really say it was really good, but I can't say it was really bad. I can just say it was fine. It was kind of necessary, I guess. It's kind of like the casino in Last Jedi. It's not really that good, but it's kind of needed to further the plots, I guess.
Yeah.
The middle part admittedly gets dragged by the Disney worlds because while they do exist and they do kind of in a way try to recapture the charms of the movies, there's a couple of problems I do have with it. First of all, I think they're I get why they're a lot longer, so you don't have to revisit them every time. Because Kingdom Hearts 2 has like 2 visits. KH1, you sometimes come back to certain worlds, but other times not really. So Kingdom Hearts 3 just makes them longer, which works in the sense that you don't have to come back for them, but I feel like in terms of pacing for the real story, it kind of drags down, especially when a good portion of them are the movies, basically. I feel like the worst offender is At World's End, in the sense that because At World's End is really a lot longer and more complicated than Frozen and Tangled, they basically have an entire section of like pretty much bullshit in fucking Caribbean.
Yeah, I agree. It was literally just like, hey, here's the beginning of At World's End. Okay, now
go look for crabs.
Around and with crabs, white crabs specifically,
and then
we get to like the end.
And then I admit the end, the third act, really, near the final act is actually pretty good because that's the one where you the final act is pretty good, but it does have a couple of issues. I didn't like how they had to repeat a certain scene. I think you know the scene I'm talking about. When everybody basically gets their asses kicked, Sora goes to the final world. You have to get yourselves together, come back, save everyone's asses, come back again, have Lingering Will save your ass, and then Lingering Will disappear, only for a different plot twist to happen, that Ansem is the Seeker of Darkness. Have Xion come out of nowhere, even though really don't know how she came back. And yeah, I guess really the only thing I really like about the final sequences is just the fact that you can fight all the Organization 13 members, and the final battle with Xehanort is genuinely pretty fun. But in terms of a story perspective, I can't say it was really good.
I mean, yeah, story-wise, I didn't love the story, but I liked aspects of the ending. I liked it more than I disliked it. I love how it basically tied up the plot threads with the Seesaw Trio and the BBS Trio nicely. I thought that Riku's moments in it were great. Well, I agree that I didn't like the whole Power of Waking sequence. I didn't like the Deus Ex Machina of the Light of the Past. I did not like how Kairi was
handled.
She was basically used to motivate Sora and the story, which has happened since 1. Which I don't mind if one character becomes a motivation for another. That's fine with me.
But my
problem this game was terrible.
But my problem with Kairi is that Kairi is supposed to be more than that in this game now.
Exactly. She was being set up to be like this awesome fighter who could be, not at the same level as Sora, because they say that she's not trained to be a master, she's trained to be a Keyblade wielder.
And that's another issue I do have. This is the issue.
She does a bit with Xion, but then she gets her ass handed to her in the boss fight itself, and then Xemnas captures her, which I feel like, the way that Kairi was being held, that type of hold hurts like hell. So I could see her getting captured. What I don't like is that they killed her at the end of it, and it was like, why did they kill her? That was not necessary. Like, to complete the final key, Xemnas could have just, like, I don't know, whacked Sora in the head, and then the final key would have been born. Because the members of the organization, they don't technically have to die to form a key, to form an extra key.
Oh yeah, can I also say like a couple more complaints?
Sure.
Is it weird that Sora had to go and help everybody? You couldn't play as any of the other characters to fight their own fights. Like, you couldn't play as Aqua to fight Terranord. You couldn't play as Ventus to fight Vanitas. You couldn't play as Axel to fight Saïx. You couldn't play as Roxas.
As much as I would have loved that, it would have taken way too long for the developers to develop movesets for all these characters.
But here's a couple things. They already have movesets, and they only get to be showcased once.
A small moveset, but it's not as...
But Riku doesn't even have a big moveset, and you play as him twice.
I was going to say it's not as big as Riku's moveset, because Kairi literally has, like, 2 attacks.
But here's the problem. In substitute of that, you have Sora just randomly going into the fights that he really has no business, other than him being the main protagonist, and he's basically solving.
But it's also the fact that it's been set up, and I think it was not the secret ending of Dream Drop, but when Riku meets up with Ansem and Dream Drop Distance, that Sora is the one who's gonna free all these people. He's the one who's gonna save them.
I don't know.
So, I feel like with that set up in mind, I feel like it does make sense for Sora to help them out.
I don't know, I just feel like it's pretty fucking lazy, if you ask me.
You get what you're saying, and I agree with it. I would have loved to play as Ventus and beat the shit out of Vanitas. I would have loved to play as Roxas and beat the absolute shit out of Saïx.
To me, my problem with Sora in particular from this game is that because they just made him the chosen one, he's basically solving all the problems, and I feel like there are character moments that he completely robs, in my opinion. And I feel like I get what you're trying to say in this one, but to me it just seems like a cop-out. Like, you don't need Sora.
I agree. Like, Sora was given a lot of attention, whereas all the other characters like Ventus, Kairi, and Terra, especially Terra and Axel,
especially Kairi.
Yeah, Kairi, Terra, Roxas, and Shion, and even Naminé, especially Naminé.
Naminé
doesn't even have lines in this game. She just kind of smiles.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that Hayden Panettiere did not reprise her roles for any of her characters.
No, neither did Megan Martin, who voiced Kairi in basically every game except 2. Because, I don't know, there's no way in hell Brittany Snow's coming back to voice Naminé for some reason.
Nope, like, Naminé's less voice actress-less.
Well, she does have a voice actress, the same one that she used in every other game, which is Megan Martin.
But in 3...
In 3, she has none. It's the same with Alias and Dylan. How they have no voices at all. They're just kind of there.
Oh my god, I forgot those guys were there.
Like, all of the redeemed organization members, like, the redemption arc was just basically handled through Zexion and a little bit of Vexen. That was it. Alias just stood there like, and then Dylan almost cried when Ansem came back, and that was like the extent of their characters.
They actually made Zexion feel emotions.
They actually made Dylan like almost cry.
Almost, but not quite. Anyway, before we go too deep into this, okay, I'm gonna give like a quick synopsis. If I had to judge the game based on the story, I'd say it's more of a 6 out of 10.
I would give it 4 out of 10.
Well, I was actually trying to be nice.
Well, if I'm being nice, I would give it a 5 out of 10.
Fair enough. I mean,
yeah.
Alright, fair enough. I think I will actually go for the 5.
Yeah, same. I'll go for the 5.
Alright. Because there were things I genuinely liked, but there were probably a lot of things that I really wish were better. Now, quick thing, how the
Disney worlds were implemented into the story.
I didn't think they were terrible, but I didn't think they were really that good either. I think I mentioned it a little bit, but I feel like...
Same.
Okay. My personal two favorite worlds are Monsters, Inc. and Big Hero 6, primarily because they take their elements from those worlds, but they don't use it like the same way how they use it in the movies. They are sequels to their movies, and in my opinion, there's like a lot of creative freedom to it because they kind of use their worlds and the themes of those worlds a lot nicer, if you ask me. It's better, in my opinion, than just rehashing what was already done and making it worse. Let's be honest.
And in this case, it was a lot worse. This was worse. The retellings of the movies, which occurred with Tangled, Frozen, and the Caribbean, were easily the worst ones out of the entire series in terms of retellings.
Yeah, so that's why I can appreciate Big Hero 6 and Monsters, Inc. the most. Caribbean was not... I can only excuse Caribbean in the sense that it used the ship's gameplay, which in my opinion was pretty creative, but I do think that the ship's gameplay is pretty flawed in some aspects.
Yeah.
It is still not a bad world in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's not terrible. Story-wise, it's not good, but it's not...
But then again, when has Pirates of the Caribbean ever been good story-wise?
That's true. Okay, so... I generally feel the same way. I feel like the best worlds are Monsters, Inc. world, which is Monstropolis, and San Francisco for Big Hero 6.
Yeah. My least, and I don't know if you share this opinion, but my least favorite world overall, and it really pains me to say this, but my least favorite world is actually the Toy Story world.
I was going to say that was my least favorite world as well, because... Okay, so apparently this is... I don't know if this applies to the Monsters, Inc. world, but apparently... The creators of Toy Story, Pixar, made a story made the story for this world. And now it's actually canon with the Toy Story movies, and now it takes place between 1 and 2.
Well, this makes me less excited for Toy Story 4 then, because this is easily the worst storytelling in Toy Story.
I agree, it's basically a shittier, more needlessly complicated version of like the Big Hero 6 world.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing. Like young Xehanort is trying to figure out if it's the opposite. Actually, it is the opposite, but it still follows the same formula. Young Xehanort is trying to figure out how to make a toy, an empty vessel that has a heart apparently, fall into darkness. Riku. Dark Riku to be exact, who becomes a member of the organization, not to be confused with regular Riku, is trying to figure out how to create a heart from data.
So...
One is needlessly complicated because it involves separating two worlds, one that is really convincing and one that is real, just to test the bonds of characters, because darkness is the heart's true nature.
And then I feel like I was getting to a point. I feel like Toy Story was actually one of the only worlds where I would have been okay if they actually used the story from the movie, because because all three of those movies actually make you go a little bit further out of Andy's place. More specifically, 2 and 3, which in my opinion, if they would have used the plots of 2 or 3, it would have made the worlds a lot more entertaining and a lot more engaging, if you ask me. Because I'm glad you're not just in Andy's room, but there's like little to no life in this world. Where at least I may not have liked Tangled and Caribbean that much, but one thing I can easily praise. Oh yeah, and Twilight Town as well. One thing I can praise is that there's so much life and NPCs in those three worlds, to the point that I can easily praise like the amount of effort that went into the character models and the fact that they can actually talk as opposed to just having text. This game has legit NPCs, and I feel like they could have done something with Toy Story, but they just cop out, in my opinion.
Why they're not there, because you could say like, oh, they're in that other world, but it's still like, I feel like this one was the most unnecessary world story-wise.
Yeah, and it's pretty goofy when you have to put in young Xehanort trying to torture Woody and Buzz, really. I couldn't really take the plot seriously.
That that world where Yuzora!
Which we'll get to when we get to Yuzora.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I love Rex's fanboying in this world. It was so adorable. And, what else? Woody just basically roasting a young Xehanort saying, I bet you were never loved as a kid.
I would not be surprised. Young Xehanort is basically an angsty, edgy teenager in my eyes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So...
okay. I feel that the Frozen world had the most potential, and it just, like, squandered it.
It just gave up completely.
Yeah, like, it could have been... Like, I saw what they were going for when you meet up with Larxene in front of Elsa's castle. How, you know, she's trying to see if Elsa really is a new Princess of Heart, or, because we'll explain that a little later after I give this explanation, or if her heart will lead to darkness. And I feel like with the whole frozen heart aspect that's within the film, it could have been so well done. But no, instead, we're literally just gonna tell, like, the beginning of the movie, a random middle section with no context, and the end.
And that goddamn annoying section when you had to find Olaf's body.
Yeah, and Donald and Goofy basically repeat the same three lines over and over again.
I think that was the only time I actually legitimately muted the game. I was so tempted to make a video about that. Like, I was actually tempted to just really keep that part of it, and then actually make it into a video. And I was gonna title it "If I Have to Suffer, You're All Suffering with Me." I never really got around to it because I honestly did not think about it until after I beat it, and by then the 60-minute count on my PS4 already went out of that world. So you guys saved yourselves. But Critical Mode Run is coming soon.
I feel that also the fact that, you know, I know you loved Marshmallow as a party member, and Marshmallow was awesome just to look at fight. But I feel that the fact that you party with, that your party member is a character who plays such a minor role in the plot, like Marshmallow, I feel like shows a lot on how Sora, Donald, and Goofy implemented themselves in the story.
I honestly wish you could have had Elsa as a party member. That was what I was...
wouldn't have made too much sense as a party member, but I feel like Anna and Kristoff could have been, or better yet, just not have a party member in that world, because I don't see Elsa and Kristoff really fighting. I can see Elsa fighting because she fights in the movie. Like, she has a little showdown with those two guardsmen. But I just don't see her being a party member.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't see it now, really, especially with how the movie turns out, but I think it would have been a nice touch and a nice change.
Boss fight, she joins in, and she uses, you know, ice magic. And she could be like a mage.
Actually, here's another complaint I do have with the Disney worlds, is that it just seems like if there was any sort of, like, antagonist... I guess this is really referring to Tangled and Frozen in particular. But every time they have an antagonist, they just seem to turn them into Heartless and really out of nowhere overly designed, like, Heartless that just makes no sense. Like, I guess, was it Prince Hans' Heartless was like a wolf-like creature?
Okay.
And I don't even know what the fuck was Mother Gothel's Heartless. It was like a tree fucking Heartless.
Okay. So at least with what's it called? At least with Hans' Heartless, I thought it was so confusing, so I looked it up. It's a reference to Norse mythology. And in Norse mythology, there are two wolves, one that tries to eat the sun and one that tries to eat the moon. Hans' Heartless is named after the one that tries to eat the sun, and you can interpret this as Hans trying to take away the lights that are Anna and Elsa. So, a nifty little reference. With Mother Gothel's, I feel like hers being a tree is like so random, but the fact that Marluxia controls flowers, I don't know, just kind of makes sense of it. I don't know. I feel like it kind of looks like her as well. Like I could see the leaves in her hair and the big crazy eyes.
Is it just? But is it just me, or does every world really have to end with a big dumb heartless boss fights?
I mean, you couldn't really have with the way the stories were structured with each world. I really feel like which Disney World boss fight would you have? Like obviously,
I'm not sure if I would have been really that mad if there wasn't a Disney fight though.
I do think that we should have fought Hades in the Hercules world as well, to be honest.
Okay, well that's fine, but like I feel like in those two worlds in particular, I don't think I would have lost. I don't think I would have lost sleep if I didn't end up fighting a big heartless or any Disney villain in the end of those two worlds. I would have been okay if I just fought Marluxia or Larxene.
As well.
Yeah, but like I think I would have been okay if I just fought Marluxia or Larxene in those two worlds, as opposed to just randomly turning the main villains into heartless and. One of them is not even deceased, and it's actual. And Frozen, like Hans is not even dead in Frozen anyway.
She just gets arrested. But like, I feel like it also makes sense why they would like out of all characters. I feel like it's cool that we got to see the villains like actually fall into darkness.
But can I actually say one thing? I think I would have preferred fighting Marluxia and Larxene for the one thing, for another complaint I can easily say about the Disney worlds. All the Organization 13 members just go there, make fun of Sora, and then disappear. Like, they don't do anything.
That in the Monsters Inc. world. He's like, I bet you're gonna say some random mumbo jumbo and then just leave.
Yeah. So why not fight Marluxia? Even they don't have to die in those worlds, but I could have fought them.
I agree. It could have been like how it was handled in like how Demix fought in Olympus Coliseum.
And in Chain of Memories you fight. And Chain of Memories you fight like each member at least twice. You fight Axel twice, Larxene twice, and Vexen twice.
Vexen twice. I think you fight Lexius once only.
Oh no, the Riku ones you only fight once, but in Sora's part you do fight them twice.
You fight 4 times.
Yeah, so
it was the most out of all of them.
Marluxia you fight 3 times actually.
Oh, 3? Okay, I was 1 off.
Yeah.
But like still, it could have been. I feel like it could have been something like that. And we even got to fight Vanitas. So there's really no excuse. Like you could make the excuse that they didn't want to lose themselves from when they fought the 7 Lights. Which, you know what, I'll give you that. But it's still like Vanitas doesn't have that kind of fear, and I doubt Larxene or Marluxia of all people wouldn't have that fear.
As much as I love the way Monstropolis handled Vanitas, at the same time I feel like a boss fight would have been fine. But to be fair, Monstropolis actually handled the Unversed boss fight a lot better than I'd say Frozen and Tangled's Heartless.
Yeah, the boss fight there was so well. I feel like,
in my opinion,
it was a well done boss fight because I didn't play the game. But I feel like I really like the concept of it. I like the fact that it has this defensive mode when it it's not covered in goo, and then when it's covered in goo, it's like this huge monster thing, and it makes sense with like how the Unversed work as enemies.
Personally, in terms of like bosses, it's my removing the Organization 13 bosses. It's actually my favorite boss in the game.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was the only one that actually challenged me really.
Oh, that's cool.
The other ones were really easy, and this is even counting the Organization 13 battles and removing Dark Inferno, which I'm not really a big fan of the boss itself, really. There's not really an award you get in Dark Inferno, but I personally think that this Monstropolis boss fight was genuinely really well done and really difficult for a game that's easily the easiest Kingdom Hearts game in the series.
Yeah.
So, like...
What else can we say?
I don't know. I feel like
I mentioned the 7 Hearts. So okay. So and Nomura explained this earlier on when the first 2 trailers came on, and I think at least when the Frozen trailer came up, and I think we talked about it when we made the podcast for that. But basically, the new 7 Hearts are they explain it better in this game anyway than how Nomura did. So basically, the duty of the previous 7 Princesses of Heart, which were Kairi, Cinderella, Jasmine, Belle, Aurora, Snow White, and Alice have been complete, and they have passed on their light to someone else. So far, the characters we know that are Princesses of Heart are Kairi, she's still a princess. let's see, Elsa and Anna, and Rapunzel. We don't get to see the other three. Though we can assume that they're based on like the newer Disney films. Like maybe we'll see Merida in the next Kingdom Hearts game as a Princess of Light. Maybe we'll see Moana. Maybe we can see Pocahontas or something. I don't know, or Tiana. Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. So there's that.
It doesn't really go where much, but at least it kind of sets up for whatever sequel they have planned after KH3.
Because we've already visited Agrabah like what 3 times.
Yeah.
We visited what's it called? We've already visited Dwarf Woodlands. We've already visited Castle of Dreams, Enchanted Dominion. We've already visited all of the Princess of Hearts worlds, and we're not gonna have. Like, it would be boring just to come back to them every single game.
Yeah, I'm at least glad this one kind of broke the monotony. I think the only exception is at Olympus Coliseum. Like, we've already been through Olympus, like, through multiple games.
At least we get to see a new side of Olympus with that one. We get to see Thebes.
Yeah.
Which we saw, like, a bit of it in Birth by Sleep, and that's about it.
Yeah, but let's not beat the dead horse of the Disney worlds, because I feel like we've been talking about that for a while. So
yeah, I agree. Now let's talk about the characters.
Yeah. Let's do a quick rundown. I already talked. Huh?
So Sora's character arc. I felt like Sora had a nice character arc. There was.
Can I talk about the character himself, or do I really have to talk about how he was implemented into the story? Because I feel like I already talked a little bit about how.
Okay, since we already talked about how he was implemented in the story, let's talk about his character himself.
I love him. I absolutely loved him in this one.
Huh?
I absolutely loved him in this one.
I agree. I feel like he has such great characterization in this one. Like,
see, to me, Sora always came across as really boring in the other games, but this one he actually like implements a lot of fun personality in this one. Like, I feel like they tried doing that in the other games, but I feel like they never like captured that. So this one, to me, he was.
I feel like in one he has no personality, and 2 he just gets really sassy at times. And in Dream Drop he's just stupid. And in this one, I feel like it is a great balance of like, it really just shows you who he is as a character, and it also leads into how good of a relationship he has with Donald and Goofy. Like, those 3 characters balance each other so well, and bounce off each other like personality wise, and it's just so much fun to see them interact. You can see that they're best friends.
Yeah. And one thing that I was glad that they didn't do in this game, because this is the one big issue I had with Sora, and I almost said Dream Drop Distance, but it technically really started in Recoded, but I feel like Dream Drop Distance really pushed it too far, is when I feel like they're trying to bring back classic Sora and trying to make I forgot the actor. Hale Joel. I feel like he's trying so hard to sound like his KH1 self sometimes when it came to Recode. More specifically, Dream Drop Distance technically started it, but Recoded HD came out later, and he still talked like how he did in Dream Drop, and I was annoyed as hell. I was like, can you just speak your normal voice? And thank God he actually not only shows more personality in this one, but he actually sounds natural. Like, he sounds like a natural voice actor. And I actually genuinely cared about Sora in this game as opposed to the others, where I just found him as, well, the protagonist you play as, really. I never hated Sora, but I never was invested in. I never hated Sora back then, but I was not as invested into his character as opposed to Riku, Axel, and pretty much everybody else.
I agree. Sora's always been one of my favorite characters, but I feel like this really made me love Sora.
So I think Sora's really good. As for his character arc, I already established that I kind of don't like the fact that he was shoehorned in because he's kind of the main character and kind of taking the spotlight from most people. But for the most part, and the Power of Waking thing, let's be honest, it was kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina.
So the character arc was kind of sweet, but I
like how it happened, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Donald and Goofy's friendship with Sora is definitely, like, it kind of goes along with his new personality. You get to see it a lot more than you did in the other games, so I can easily appreciate the dynamics between those 3 characters in this one as opposed to the others.
Chemistry, I love it.
Riku is my personal favorite character in the series. I was heavily invested into his character in Chain of Memories, and I really enjoyed his struggle with the darkness at this point. And I like that he started off as a spoiled brat in KH1 to now being easily the most mature character of all of them. I feel like when I have to think about character developments in Kingdom Hearts, I easily point to Riku the most. If there's anything I can easily praise about Kingdom Hearts, if you really can't get into the story, you can easily get into the character. I feel like the characters they do really well, and Riku really takes that spotlight. In my opinion, he's my favorite. He's the best character.
I feel like the change is also highlighted in the fact that you get to fight his younger self, which isn't really his younger self. It's actually a data replica, but he still acts like the data Riku, who is Dark Riku. Basically acts like Riku in Kingdom Hearts 1. Or he acts like a spoiled brat, as you said. And I feel like seeing how this Riku acts towards him just shows how much he's grown and how much he's changed. And I love it. I love his character in this game. It's made me love Riku.
Riku's the type of character that I would strive to become, in my...
Yeah, I never hated Riku. I never disliked him. But he was always, in the top 5, but he wasn't, I didn't love him. Now I love his character.
Oh, I've always loved them from Chain of Memories, at least.
Alright, now the one that everyone hates. Kairi.
Kairi's the worst character ever fucking put into this franchise at this point now. She was such a wasted potential. She is so bombastically worthless in this game. She's always been worthless in the series, but this time they decided to hey, now she's gonna fight now because KH2, they gave her a Keyblade for 2 seconds, but we're gonna forget that fucking happened. They give her a chance and they fuck it up completely. What the fuck? I'm only this quiet because I don't want to wake my mother up. But holy hell, if I was here by myself, I would have screamed out the top of my lungs of what a wasted potential this character is and how horribly implemented she was into the story. Aside from the new actress did not capture what made Kairi such a special little sweetheart in the last games. She sounds annoying. She talks she looks like she de-aged. She looks like she was 16 in KH2. Now she's back to 14 in this one.
Dear Lord, Marcus.
What the fuck? They had everything going for this character, and they fucked it up completely. I'm not sure if I'm done because she's also a terrible party member who dies in 2 seconds in the Psyx fight, only to get captured by Zednus and then killed off by Xehanort, which gave Sora the absolute needed ending to go look for Kairi, because that's the entire reason why he went to this fucking journey in the first place, because of her. And then Sora just fades away while Kairi is just in the island, not deserving at all.
Dear Lord. I did not expect this rant to go that deep.
It's terrible. I think I was more invested into Zexian's boring ass personality than this fucking... Oh my god, they couldn't even make her a Mary Sue. That's the worst part. They couldn't have even done that.
I'm actually happy they didn't make her into a Mary Sue.
You're right, because now she's worthless.
Okay, so I'm always willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt, and I was really happy when they started setting her up since KH2 as a Keyblade wielder. I was excited. I was thinking about how she would fight, if it would be similar to Aqua or not. And I was really psyched to see how she would fight. Obviously she wouldn't be, to the same level as Sora and Riku, but she could be hold her own against an enemy. And I was disappointed with how it went.
Disappointment is putting it very lightly, my dear friend.
Yeah, putting it pretty lightly. I was happy that she was at least able to hold her own in the cutscenes against Xion for a bit. She did.
She got pushed.
No, she also pushed Xion back.
She got pushed out, and Axel defended her. No, she lost that fight. Even in the cutscene.
There was also, like,
She did a little spinning move, and that's about it. And then Shion just pushed her aside.
On her for like a second.
Shion blocked everything. Shion pushed her back, and Axel just blocked it for her.
No.
And also, there was a scene. Who was it? Was it Terranort or was it? Yeah, I think it was Terranort. Almost killed fucking Kyrie, and Axel protect. No, Sora just. Oh no, that's the one with Donald Duck Flare. Okay, never mind. Fuck
Flare.
Okay, whatever. Never mind. I almost thought that Axel had to like try and protect Kyrie, which almost made me angrier.
That thing made me love Donald. I already loved Donald, but it made me love him more. Okay, let's see what else I have to say. I don't find her voice that annoying. In this game, I feel like it's not as good as Hayden Panettiere's, but I feel like it's still good-ish. I'm so upset that they didn't get Hayden Panettiere to do the voice again, and she even voiced her concerns about it on Twitter. She said that she would have loved to voice Kyrie again for this game.
I thought it was because of the voice acting issue that's going around with the video game industry lately.
I thought it was mostly just Hayden Panettiere just being, just leaving the series. Like, she wanted to try new things. She didn't want to, still play Kyrie. But no, it was the opposite. She wanted to still play Kyrie, which I feel like it was a little upsetting. Like I'm not gonna say Alison Sutter is a bad voice actor. She's the voice for Shion, and Shion's voice is fantastic. But I feel like if anyone does Kyrie justice, it's Hayden Panettiere. Let's see. I agree with Mark. I think she de-aged. I feel like she looks younger than she looks like what she should look like in 2, which is like she looks older than Sora in 2, and she looks like she's a child in 3. Like, I don't know how they got this gap. Like, I don't know. I didn't love her look. I didn't hate it. I don't love it though. And I didn't like how she was the damsel in distress at the end. I feel like there was literally no point to that. Like, it would have been different if like Xehanort had to kill the 7 Princes of Heart to get the Keyblade, which would have made sense. But they didn't go with that route. The route that they went with was that the 7 Light had to fight the 7 Darknesses, which didn't necessarily mean that they had to die, because Shion was one of the 13 Darknesses, and she didn't die. And neither did Xemnas or young Xehanort, because, they had to go back to their time, and fight, Sora and their respective games.
My brain hurts.
Yeah, mine does too. Don't worry, mine does too.
Okay. Bottom line is, Kyrie gets a 0 out of 10. Next character.
Yeah, okay, let's see. Lee.
Oh,
so,
alright. I'll talk about my boy Axel here. Listen.
Okay.
I know people.
What's yours?
Okay, I know. I've met people that have actually told me that they found Axel annoying in KH2. I would assume, I don't know if they've ever finished the games afterwards or see if they ended up liking him in this one. But personally, this game, if you've never liked Axel prior to KH3, this game will make you change your mind. I feel like he's the most entertaining character of the bunch, and if you've already loved him in the other games, it will still make you appreciate the character a lot. Axel is my second favorite character in the entire series. I think for a while, he was my favorite before I decided to switch to Riku. But I was definitely happy to see him again in this one. I feel like he was the most entertaining character of the entire cast. I think Axel was just excellent in this game. I really was rooting for him the most. I really wanted him to reunite with Roxas and Shion, and honestly, he was the character I was the most invested with in this story. It's been a while since I've actually was invested into Axel, since Days, really. So I'm happy to see that him return to action, and his relationship with Saïx comes into a really good conflict. I could not have had it any other way in this one. I feel like Axel was the one I was the most satisfied with. So Axel, great character.
Yeah.
The most.
I agree with Marco 100%. Axel, I never disliked him, I never found him annoying, but I never really enjoyed his character too much. Like, I liked him in Days, but I didn't love him.
Oh wow, that seems like a theme. You don't seem to love my two favorites.
He's so much fun, and I especially love the moment where he's like, okay, so Ventus looks like Roxas, or is it Roxas that looks like Ventus? And everyone knows everyone, and this is an insane amount to get memorized. And then Jimmy appears, and he's just like, what? Now who's this?
He is great. He is fantastic.
But yeah, okay, just like how Lee is your, oh wait, no, now we have to talk about the previous trio. So
okay, Aqua.
Anti-Aqua antics.
Okay, do I talk about the boss fight itself, or just how Anti-Aqua is in terms of her personality?
I feel like I should have put this in better detail. I feel like
okay, whatever. Let's talk about it in general, because
let's be characters we're handling the story.
Okay, Aqua. She was okay in this one. I think my main issue with Aqua, even back in Birth by Sleep, is that she doesn't show a lot of emotion.
The voice actor struggles with showing emotion.
So, while I love the character, and I love the character a lot, and I easily like her more than Terra and Ventus, really, and I can easily get invested into her character, the lack of emotion really hurts her in the sense that when she reunites with Ventus, it's not as emotional as I was really expecting. However, when she was Anti-Aqua, I feel like her lack of emotion really played out of how much anger and despair she felt when she was in the Realm of Darkness. I felt like that was really entertaining of her. Outside of that, she was okay, really. Like, she honestly didn't contribute much, so I was a little bit disappointed about that, but she wasn't a terrible character, unlike fucking Kairi. But I was happy to see her again. I was happy to see her, and honestly, I did show a lot of concern when this trailer showed up, because I literally thought she was gonna be a member of the organization, but I'm happy to say that she was actually not Norded. So,
okay,
yeah.
So now Ventus and Terra. So, we can't really say much about these two characters because they literally appear in the final act of the story.
Okay, so I'll make a quick...
Ventus appears at the beginning of the final act, and Terra appears nearing the end of the final act. And it's just... we don't get as much time to see these characters. Granted, Aqua didn't get to see much of her either, but, like, she still got...
We had more screen time with Aqua than the other two, really, and we also had a fragmentary passage to back it up.
That is true. We had fragmentary passage, and we had the sequence with Ansem the Wise, and then we had her as Dark Aqua.
So I think it was fine, but I guess Ventus.
Yeah, but with Ventus, I'm glad back. I'm glad to see he's okay.
To be fair, the BBS.
I'm also glad to see it's okay.
To be fair, the BBS trio is easily my least favorite of the trios. To be perfectly honest, but the only one that I was invested in was Aqua, really.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about Terra being the Guardian. So, I mean, it makes sense that he would be the Guardian to an extent. Like, I can kind of see it being the thing. Like, Terra kind of fell into darkness, not really, but it was enough for Xehanort to get control of his body, so I assume this is Xehanort just trying to push Terra's heart out of his own body and then just manifests as the Guardian.
But then the Lingering Will came prior, so I'm not sure how to feel about it, really.
Yeah, it still makes the Lingering Will seem, like, redundant, because, like, isn't Terra the Lingering Will? Like, I know his heart isn't inside the armor, but it's his will, it's his soul. Like, his heart and body are being controlled. We know that his heart and body are being controlled by Xehanort, but his will is still with, the Lingering Will.
I would have much preferred.
He literally just crosses blades with Terra Xehanort, and then disappears.
I would have much preferred having the Lingering Will, like, be a part of the fight or something. Like, I wouldn't mind the Guardians, plot twist. In my opinion, was a pretty good plot twist, but I just felt like it kind of undermines the fact that the Lingering Will came prior. So I think they should have had one or the other. And honestly, the Guardian one was actually a pretty good one. So I would have been okay with that one.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we could have just gotten more of them. And I feel the exact same with these two next characters, Roxas and Shion. Okay, Roxas is my baby. So just as you talked about your boy Axel/Lee, I will talk about my child, Roxas.
Okay.
So at first, in the first few podcasts, I was not the most excited that Roxas was returning because I felt that his arc was completed in 2. I felt that him accepting that he is part of Sora was already a good ending for his arc. But with the way that BBS ended, it was insane that, the nobodies can grow hearts. I mean, on one hand, it does explain that why Roxas can wield the Keyblade and not not Xemnas. But at the same time, it's like, this was already such a satisfying conclusion for his arc. And I'm glad to see him back. I will always be glad to see more of Roxas, but I'm at least happy that they went with this route and not with a Data Roxas route, where this is just a copy of Roxas from when he was in the Twilight Town simulation, like how I thought it was going to be in the earlier podcasts. Let's see, what else? I'm happy to see him back. I like the way he returned. I love his sequence of him returning is literally one of my favorite scenes in the series. So I'm happy about that. Now, let's talk about Shion.
Oh, wait. Well, I want to have my opinion on Roxas out of the way.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, to be fair, I actually did think the way Roxas' return was also done really well, because I like the fact that they actually explained how they can implement replicas to bring back nobodies into their actual physical bodies. And so with that in mind, that's what made Roxas and eventually Naminé's return actually reasonable for me. So I applauded for that. So I legitimately think that Roxas' return was the highlight of the story, in my opinion. So I thought it was done really well. And I like Roxas just fine.
I think it was done well. I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like I just liked the ending of Roxas' arc in 2 so much.
No, I agree. I can completely agree with that. But
it's meaningless because it isn't meaningless, but it makes it seem.
It's still satisfying to see the way he was implemented in the story, or at least.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. It is satisfying to see him return. I mean, this is my favorite character in the series, so yeah.
Which leads to Shion now. You can go first with this one.
Okay, so I mostly want to talk about. Okay, so Shion is a character. She literally got almost as much time as Terra. So spoiler, Shion does return, but as a member of Organization 13. She is not Norded, which explains why she can be a light and a darkness. But it's okay. So, and the halfway point of the game, or early on in the game rather, they say that Sora has 3 hearts inside him. One that's been with him since he was a kid, that's Ventus. One that's been with him since the events of Kingdom Hearts 2, that's Roxas. And one that's been with him almost as long, which is Shion. Now, we know that Sora released.
That boy has 4 hearts inside him.
He's sharing that heart with everybody.
He has more hearts than Link.
Yeah. But, okay, so we saw Sora release Ventus from his heart. We saw Sora release Roxas from his heart. When did Shion get released?
When he blinked.
What I'm thinking is that this is a data replica of Shion. It's not actually Shion. But they act like it's the real Shion.
Whatever updates, free DLC, or Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix thing that Nomura's planning, I hope they give us like a better.
He's just gonna put in some new story cutscenes on a critical mode.
It would be funny if he calls it the Final Mix update though. So I'll give him that. If whatever he does.
Okay, in the Ultimania, I love how assassin Nomura can be sometimes, but like this is such a dick move that he did. He was in one of the translations I saw for the Ultimania, take this with a grain of salt because it is a translation. so it might not be 100% correct, but it basically said, oh, it was responding to the question of how did Shion get back, which is a question that I have as well. And it was like, oh, I thought with the hints that I gave, it would have been, more obvious to the player, but I will be adding, cutscenes to explain this.
I would have responded saying, well, I don't know, write your stories better.
I was gonna say, write your damn stories better.
Yeah, so whatever update he has in mind, I hope it's enough to at least explain Shion's return better, in my opinion. Because as far as I'm aware of, everybody forgot who she was at their days, so...
Yeah, but I'm glad, I like how Sora kind of remembered her, because he did see her in the dream. And I like how Axel remembered her again. He was like, wait a minute, Shion!
Yeah, I admit, that part got me a little bit.
I love the scene where she has to point her Keyblade at him and her Keyblade's shaking, and Axel's like, who are you? Oh man,
that scene got me. That entire scene got me.
That is such a beautiful scene. It's so well done. I love it.
And see, like I said, if you weren't invested to the story, you definitely get invested to the characters.
I 100%.
Because I find Shion to be such a lovable character, even back in days.
Okay. But yeah, so now let's talk about the main antagonist of the series, Master Xehanort. So...
he sucks on this one. I'm sorry.
I do not like Master Xehanort at all in this game.
Oh, can I say one quick thing? I did not know I didn't know Drake Bell voiced really young Xehanort in the chess with Master Ericus.
I saw that too.
So, little known fact.
McCartney, but then I looked it up and it was Drake Bell.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Like I was watching a stream and they said Drake Bell and I'm like, what? That's crazy. Oh, that's awesome. But what the fuck? What happened to Master Xehanort in this one?
Okay.
So, is he good then?
Okay, so let me get this straight. So, Xehanort only appeared in the final world. By the final world, I mean Keyblade Graveyard, not the actual final world.
That and Skyla Kalium, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, Skyla ad Kylum, which translates to Stairway to Heaven in Latin. Or Stairway to the Sky, depending on which translation. And okay, so we know that his goal was to start a new Keyblade world so you can get Kingdom Hearts. However, we never got a why. We always kind of assumed that, due to things that he said in Birth by Sleep, we always kind of assumed that it was like his sort of science-y tendencies, like he wanted to see. He was just curious on what would happen if the world fell into darkness again.
What a dick.
Yeah.
But as you can see, that made him a villain.
He basically, after you defeat him in Scala at Kylum, he basically says that he kind of wanted to rule the world and like help people out with it. And I'm just sitting here like, the fuck? Weren't you evil?
Listen, this is not Thanos, basically, who has good intentions.
It has nothing to do thematically with the series as a whole. The series as a whole is about connections and about making friends and about, the power of one's heart. I feel like this was just tacked on at the end because Nomura was like trying to figure out why Xehanort wanted Kingdom Hearts so bad.
Why couldn't it have just been as simple as he just wanted to cover the entire world with darkness and he just hates the lights? Couldn't it have been as simple as that?
It could have been like a mirroring of Ansem's original plan, and you could have just said it was a reference to Kingdom Hearts 1.
That would have made me happy. That would have made me happy.
To get control of Kingdom Hearts and to plunge the world into darkness.
But he kind of goes the Thanos route, and it's not even a good one.
To redeem himself and be a redeemable villain and blah blah blah.
Then he they
did a good job with doing that with the other characters. Like I like how they handled Clark scenes and Luxord's, and I really like Vanitas' final scene. But with Xehanort, it was easily the worst one.
Yeah. I know this is not really like, the casting's fault, but in my opinion, Leonard Nimoy was such a better Xehanort, and it's a shame.
Oh, no.
May he rest in peace, but
yeah.
he was like, Leonard Nimoy really captured Xehanort much better than this. It's kind of like how I feel with Ansem, with the Secret of Darkness Ansem, as I did feel like the original voice actor was so much better than the new one, but this one was kind of.
Billy Zane was the original voice actor for Ansem, right?
Huh?
Billy Zane was the original voice actor.
Yes, it was Billy Zane.
What?
It was Billy Zane. Yes, I just couldn't remember it off the top of my head.
Billy Zane's alive, isn't he? Like, where the hell
Yeah, he's still alive. He just never came back for Ansem.
Oh, really?
He just literally never came back for the role. Yeah, he's in his 50s. He's in his 50s right now.
Mr. Ansem sounds good. He sounded not that great in Kingdom Hearts 2, but I feel like over time he's improved.
Yeah, but still
Billy Zane is like, it's Billy Zane.
Yeah,
you know?
but he's in his 50s, by the way. He's still alive.
Yeah, I know he's still alive.
Okay, no, you asked like if he was still alive, so I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is he? Well, more like I was asking, like, what the hell is he doing now? I haven't seen him in any movies. But anyways, okay, so Organization 13 as a whole.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, so I feel like I saw a review of the game by Cosmonaut, and I feel like he put it best when saying that the entire organization acts like one character, and that's not just because they are half of them are literally the same character.
Yeah, I can get that a lot with Ansem and Xemnas, and even Young Xehanort a lot more with those three, since they are kind of technically the same person.
The same as Xehanort, but like Marluxia acts the same.
Yeah.
Luxor acts the same.
So I get. Let me see if I can.
Vanitas, I feel like, are the only ones in that organization that have some semblance of a personality, excluding Vexen and Demyx.
Yeah.
And Sion, of course, then, yeah.
No, this is going to be tricky to talk about because I'm just going to try to remember the Organization 13 members, but keep in mind that two of them.
I can list them out for you.
But two of them actually defect is a thing, so that's what I'm just trying to make sure I don't forget.
But those were the reserve members. They don't number them in this version. Laura said that he was going to do that, but he decided against it because the old members, like Larxene and Marluxia and all the others, would have to get new numbers. But the members are Ansem, Secret of Darkness, Xemnas, Young Xehanort, Vanitas, Terra Xehanort, Marluxia, Larxene, Luxord, Dark Riku, also known as Riku Replica, Xion, let's see, who am I missing? Who else am I missing? Vexen, Demyx, Master Xehanort, of course. Let's see, who else? Sayax and Xigbar.
Okay. So.
Those are the members. And I feel like I liked Sayax's arc. Xigbar, we'll get to him at the ending.
Oh boy.
Okay, I have a theory on that, but we'll discuss that later. But again, oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed.
Let's see. I like their deaths. Their deaths were cool. I like how they handled how Marluxia and Larxene rejoined the organization. And I kind of like how this organization was literally made up of all of the villains of the previous games, which had to include Train of Memories. So I thought that was cool. Brought them back, and the reason why they brought them back.
As for me, okay. I feel like the only ones I really liked were the Xehanort ones, like, okay, not Young Xehanort. I kind of never liked them, even back in June Drop. I enjoyed Ansem and Xemnas just fine, even though they don't really do too much, but I still enjoyed their characters just fine, because I've always was fond of those two. I enjoyed Xigbar just fine, but that's really because of his personality.
Same.
Sayax has a really interesting character arc, so I did enjoy his, and I'm usually not really a big fan of Sayax, so this is a big step up for the character in my opinion. Demyx and Vexen I really could give less of a shit about, but with the big twist that they defect, and how Vexen in a way kind of un-Xehanorted himself, I didn't get really.
Don't explain that shit.
So I kind of wish they kept Vexen as an Organization 13 member who wants revenge against Axel. I was really interested when that was up.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed with Marluxia and Larxene personally, because they didn't really. They're only back because of their connections with the past. So they were in Union Cross, but is that really it? Like, last time I remember, they were trying to, I don't know.
That's it. But I like how they still acknowledge that they wanted to betray the organization. Like, Larxene, even brought up, yo, you want to take over this organization?
But they don't.
But just immediately shut her down.
But they don't. And Larxene in particular, we never, like, Sora straight up questions why she even joined, because she clearly didn't want to join.
And the Japanese version, there's a bigger hint to this.
Okay.
It wasn't handled too on the translation. So Larxene, in the Japanese version, she says, I just really wanted to be with him. And then Sora's like, him? Who? And then Larxene's like, my secret. But in the English version, she was like, I'm really just along for the ride. And
I mean, I still kind of got that same message when she said that, though. I kind of figured she was there for someone. And at first, I thought of the girl. At first, I thought of the retarded girl subplot with Axel and Science.
Retarded. Whoa! It was Nomura answered this in the interview, and it was Marluxia. She still wanted to be with Marluxia.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. But for like a split second, I did think of the Axel Science girl subplots for a bit.
I mean, I kind of got the Marluxia thing after I heard the translation. But I just wish they made it more clear in the English version.
Yeah, I agree. But you still, I think even the Japanese dub didn't really do a whole justice, in my opinion. But
I didn't see the Japanese dub. I only read some of the translations. Okay, let's see. Should we? That's all the Zane, or it's literally. Okay, what are your thoughts on the power of waking?
Kind of a waste of time, in my honest opinion.
Deus Ex Machina?
I mean, it just came to him too, so it's like, it's not even, like, you didn't even need to go through that. Huh?
It doesn't feel earned.
Like, it just came when he was near Ventus, so it was like, it was just random. Like, it felt like he didn't even need to go through all this journey. It just felt like he just needed to get Aqua and then go to Castle Oblivion.
Yeah, I feel like there should have been a specific training program to get the power of waking. I mean, we got that with Dream Drop, but like, why couldn't Yensid just like, I don't know, think of a new training program for him for this game, and it would have been perfect. I don't know. I just feel like the power of waking was kind of a Deus Ex Machina, not as much as the Light of the Past, but it was still like, you know, it was so frustrating.
It was a waste of time. I'm just gonna put it out there. It was
also like the whole like, okay, how basically they traveled back in time. Nomura explained this, how the power of waking was really meant to bring a heart asleep. It was meant to bring back a heart from darkness, or a heart from sleep. Basically, Sora used the steroids version of that power and was able to rewrite reality for like a minute. That is Nomura's explanation.
Yeah, he's never really been a good writer, hasn't he?
No, he never has been. And I mean, I wouldn't mind that too much if it just didn't seem so broken. And if, like, it was implied by Xehanort that there would be consequences for using that power like that. And to be fair, there was. That was the reason for the ending. That's Nomura's reason for the ending. It was that he eventually used the power of waking so much that it caused him to disappear from reality.
Oh, so you mean when he used it to save Kairi?
It's the ultimate, and it'll probably be better explained in the new story cutscenes.
Yeah, because I can't believe it was because of fucking Kairi.
Yeah. Again, we already got to that, so...
Oh, I'm still not over it, though.
A tangent about that.
I'm still not over it, though.
I know you're not over it. Okay.
Fucking hate that character. She's dead to me now.
I was a big fan of the power of waking and how it was handled in the story.
It could have been better, but it's just the way it was implemented was just not the best.
Alright.
Plot points for the next Kingdom Hearts game.
So, we have a list of them. So there's the girl that was mentioned in a subplot with Ansem the Wise and Ansem Seeker of Darkness.
Which I do have, I have a lot to say about that one, actually. Now, as soon as we kind of got that, I kind of have a comment to say about the girl subplot in particular. But we have Union... Is
it what I think you're going to say, or is it just something that you just thought of?
That I just thought of, really.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the girl subplot is... Okay, here's a little brief thought. Like, another thing I can really say about the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 that I did not really like is that I understand why they did it, but at the same time I didn't like how they approach it, is that they kind of set up for more and more sequels. This is supposed to be the end of the Darkseeker saga, and although Norma straight up confirmed that there will be more Kingdom Hearts game, I feel like the focus should have been ending this story before moving on to the next. Now, this one... I'll admit this one is a little harmless, but it still came out of nowhere. So there's this girl that Axel and Saïx all of a sudden has a thing for. I think it's mostly Saïx, but the entire reason why they even joined became Ansem's apprentices in the first place was because of some girl. And as Axel puts it, they lost her. Next thing you know, they're nobodies, and next thing you know, they're working under Xemnas. And to that point, Saïx has not caught up to her. She has never been mentioned prior. And this is the first time we mentioned it to her, and by the time my sister plays this game, I can tell you she's gonna lose her shit when she sees that, because she was gonna be already confused.
Well, it's not like that she was not mentioned prior, because there could be.
Okay, well, here's the only mention we have, and that's in Ansem's Reports 11, where they mention.
I have it right here. Okay. Okay, so this is from the first Kingdom Hearts game, Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix. So
yeah, because this was Report 11 was a Final Mix exclusive, so yeah.
Yeah, so here it is. Opening the door to a world's heart causes its walls to crumble. These fragments are seen as shooting stars. This explains why these gummy blocks can travel freely to other worlds. I know the catalyst of this collapse, the appearance of the Heartless. However, it will take time to search out the world's door and to retrieve each heart. Furthermore, the doors can be locked using a keyblade, making a heart forever unattainable. I must take action before the wielder of the key appears in this world. If the princesses and the keyblade are connected, they should resonate. I've chosen a girl. I don't know if she holds the princess's powers, but I will find out. She may lead me to the key bearer. I shall set her free and observe. We know that this is the girl. Well, that this could be the girl.
Well, here's
one.
If there's
Saïx does state that Xehanort was the one that was working with her, and we know that Ansem Reports 2 onwards, at least from Kingdom Hearts 1, were written by Xehanort, or rather Terra Xehanort. And at first, when I first read these reports, I thought this was talking about Kairi. Because again, it talks about a princess's power, and how she could be a princess, but we don't know, and how it connects to the Keyblade wielder. And Sora is of course a Keyblade wielder, and he has a strong connection to Kairi, so we thought it was her.
I'm pretty sure it was her at the time, but considering the fact that, because if there's anything I've learned from Five Nights at Freddy's, at least the game theory's case, is that it's better to take reference on most of the things that came out more recently as opposed to the old, because they didn't know how they were going to establish, they didn't even know that this would be a franchise at some points. So maybe in that report, they were referring to Kairi, but now it's probably retconned for the girl. But I feel like there's going to be some changes into it, because while this one is supposed to lead to the key bearer, which at the time we only know about Sora, and Sora is definitely pretty connected to Kairi. So there's a lot of mystery. KH1, if there's anything that KH1 is no secret to, is that it's full of mysteries. And I figured
some people believe this girl to be Ava or Skuld. Personally, I'm thinking this could be either Skuld or a completely new character. For those of you who don't know, Skuld is a female Keyblade wielder that appears in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and she is one of the Dandelions. And she plays a important role there, and you know, I'm sure you can watch a bunch of videos about Union Cross that will probably do the story better justice than I ever could. So you can check that out.
Very subjective.
Yeah, now let's talk about Union Cross and how it connects to the story.
Why?
So the story between Kingdom Hearts 3 and Union Cross were developed around the same time,
Why?
which is the cross connection. My problem is, again, why? Like you said.
Why? I completely ignore. Like, Union Cross is pretty much the only Kingdom Hearts game I didn't play, really. And I refuse to.
I didn't play Union Cross because...
Why?
When I first heard about it, it was a Japan exclusive at the time, and now I'm a college student. I don't have time for this shit.
I'm just sticking my word to why.
I just want to know why it's still connected. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to set the story up for the next Kingdom Hearts game.
Square Enix was doing a fucking good job actually putting every Kingdom Hearts game in the PS4 now. But now I feel like they screwed it up here. Like, why did they stumble here when they were already ahead of the curve?
I agree. I feel like they could have made Union Cross into like a MOBA, like for the PS4.
And the thing is, they did. The worst part is they did have some. The worst part is they did have something on the PS4, Back Cover X, which pretty much gave us more questions than answers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So why?
Yeah.
It wasn't even a good substitute with the amount of lore that Union Cross even added, because Back Cover X just gave us like a very vague story that's trying to be mysterious and clever, like a J.J. Abrams flick. But then next thing you know, I'm watching other videos, and then I found out that Marluxia's like real somebody was around that time. I find out that Ventus was far back, which I guess is it's kind of a given. Then Larxene, Demyx, and Luxor may or may not be a part of it.
Well, Larxene's already a part of it as Elrena. We don't know if Demyx we know that Demyx and Luxor are gonna appear. We just don't know their names yet. I'm thinking Demyx is gonna be a dime.
That would be funny.
That would be hilarious. And then Luxor's, I don't know, Lord, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, honestly? Okay, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so, not a big fan of Union Cross. That's the one Kingdom... Well, no, not the one Kingdom Hearts game I'll say no to, but it's definitely amongst the Kingdom Hearts game I'll say no to.
Okay, now let's talk about the black box. The same way Marker feels about the girl. I feel black box is really just...
Oh, no, black box is worse than girl. It's worse than girl.
Yeah, I agree. Black box is worse than girl.
I'm sick and tired of boxes. Mysterious boxes. Stop it. It's not cool anymore.
Not a lot of time, but a good chunk of time was dedicated to just Maleficent and Pete looking for a black box, and failing to find it.
Oh, well, talk about another character with a wasted potential, too. Maleficent.
Yeah, I agree. Maleficent was nothing in this game. She was less than what she was in 2.
She has not been given a good role in any Kingdom Hearts game since 1 and, I guess, Birth by Sleep.
And 2, and the first act, that's debatable.
Very, and I really can't say it was even good in 2.
Yeah, I agree. It was not good. But anyways, I digress. The black box, you could say that, yes, this was an important aspect to, Kingdom Hearts 3. How? We still don't know what's inside the box. The box never appeared in the Keyblade Graveyard until after the war between the Xehanorts and the Guardians of Light. There was the whole plot point for why the organization was there in the Caribbean. I mean, yes, there was also Vexen being a curious sciencey fuck that he is, but it just feels like setup.
Can I just say something about Kingdom Hearts and Five Nights at Freddy's? You guys cannot pull off a fucking Pulp Fiction. You guys are not doing a good job.
No, they are not doing well on pulling up Pulp Fiction. Are they even trying to pull out a Pulp Fiction?
I feel, well, I mean, like, ever since that, it's like, why is it that 2 franchises are all of a sudden pulling up a mystery box? I get it's not a briefcase, but it's just, you get what I mean? Why is there, why mystery box? I'm sick and tired of it at this point. It made it not cool anymore, okay? It was cool once, not 3 more times. Fuck.
Okay. Now, yeah. Mark and I basically feel the same way about the box. But anyways.
Wasted.
Now, this was less of a plot point for a later Kingdom Hearts game and more of just a why? The Light of the Past. So this is... If Keyblade wielders were gods, this would literally be a Deus Ex Machina. Because Deus Ex Machina means God from machine. And this is literally just a last-minute save for Sora just to fight off the darkness.
Can I say it's a little bit funny? I find it funny how during that sequence, the names of the Keyblade Masters at the time are really just usernames of people who played the fucking mobile game.
I thought that was cute. I liked that. That was the only thing I liked about that, but it was still like, I hated how it was implemented. It was just so...
I'm sorry. I guess it's cute, but I mean it's weird at the same time.
Good.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of weird at the same time that, like, yeah, the power of Zero Wonder 66 will give me the strength that I need, or farts for brain 49, or King 666, like. I swear, I really wish I could remember the names because there were some that I just...
Give me 1 second.
There were some that I just did not find, like, natural. But...
yeah, I basically agree with that. I feel like it just was not a natural inclusion to it. Oh, by the way, we skipped over the Lux points, so I'll just bring that up real quick.
Yeah.
The Lux is basically this little star that appeared in the final world that talks to Sora for a bit. This isn't a Chirithy, this is just something else. Some people speculate this to be either Scold or Ava. I think it's... Most people think it's Ava because it sounds like Ava's voice actress. That was used in the Kingdom Hearts back cover. But it's still like... I just want to know... I just feel like it's more set up for Union Cross.
I really don't have an opinion, honestly.
And I don't have much of a strong opinion on either, but it's just like...
it's why. Basically, the entire point is why.
Union Cross.
Union Cross is just a big why.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, now let's talk about the Chirithys. So, Chirithys are these like little creatures that collect Lux, which are the lights. Lux is really just Latin for light. And they basically appear in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And Ventus had one, and it's heavily implied, that this Chirithy in particular that Sora talks to in the final world is Ventus's Chirithy. And it also gives hints to what happened to Ventus in Union Cross, and how it states that he lost his memories, and he's not exactly the same person as he was before.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. I mean, I like that they acknowledge that. At least they hint at it.
At least the Chirithy one is actually the most... The Chirithy is the one that I find the most fine.
Yeah, it's the most okay out of all of them.
Like, this is actually the one I don't have to say why. This is the most straightforward.
That and the next one are the most okay. The next one that we have on our list is the legacy within numbers 9 through 12. So, at last, Xemnas explains the reasons for each of the organization members joining in. The first 6 members were apprentices of Ansem the Wise, and the next 2 joined thereafter. They were apprentices, but like literally only for a day, so they barely count.
Plus Axel and Lee are... Plus Axel and Sayax are buddies.
Yes.
Axel and Sayax are buddies, so it's like...
Lee and Isa, yeah.
Yeah.
Then he skips numbers 9 through 12 and goes to Roxas and states that he was a Keyblade wielder, and because of him, they were able to collect hearts for Kingdom Hearts.
And they had Shion as a failsafe, too.
Yeah, he had Shion as a failsafe, who was number 14, technically. And then he states that he chose numbers 9 through 12, which are, by order, Demyx, Luxord, Marluxia, and Larxene, to reveal an ancient Keyblade legacy within them. This is tying to Union Cross as well. We already know that Marluxia and Larxene appear in Union Cross as Lorium and Elrena, respectively. And
Demyx and Luxord are the only ones that have yet to be showcased.
Yet.
To be fair, I think this is also fine because it kind of like expands Kingdom Hearts' lore a little bit in a way that, well, yeah, a little bit complicated, but it's still a very straightforward one. And to be fair, ever since Dream Drop Distance time traveling thing and Xemnas and Ansem still being alive because of time travel, I don't think it's very far-fetched to know how they became nobodies and current members of Organization 13. Really.
I feel like everything involving them is fine. I just wish I knew how their legacy contributed to the battle in the Keyblade Graveyard.
Yeah, which will take like an extra. Which will take it.
They'll explain it in a cutscene. They'll explain it in Union Cross. I don't know.
Point is, we gotta wait for an extra 20 years before you get that answer.
Yeah,
maybe.
No thing. All right, now the first secret ending.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, spoiler alert, the first secret ending shows who Luxu is.
It's Xigbar.
It's Xigbar, yes. Xigbar is Luxu. He states that he wasn't originally Luxu, but that this is just a vessel that Luxu has taken.
As if. See what I did there?
He also brings back the other foretellers, all of them except Ava.
Because she's too important and precious.
Yeah, because she's important and precious and looks like Kyrie.
Oh shit. What a plot hole. What a plot contrivance that's gonna totally be answered in Kingdom Hearts 4.5.
Probably not. But let's see what happens. So they're here in the back and no one knows why they're back. They just were kind of summoned. And so I have a theory on this. I have a theory that Xehanort did not spread his heart across the other members of the organization. I feel like within Xehanort's heart, there is also Luxu's heart. Which is why Xehanort, when he was playing the chess game, had gray eyes and rounded ears instead of yellow eyes and pointed ears.
You are such an analyst.
I am such an analyst. I'm a visual person, Marker. You know this.
So am I, but even I couldn't recognize that shit. I guess I just didn't care, really.
Probably. But yeah, I love analyzing these kinds of things. I'm a very visual person. I take visual cues very seriously. So
for me, I guess I tried with Five Nights at Freddy's, but fuck it. No, not anymore.
That game story is like fucking crazy though. I don't blame you.
Oh, tell me about it. It made me fucking lose my mind.
I noticed.
Game Theory's just writing the story for me, so that's fine.
Pretty much.
Still waiting for the movie.
Yeah. So that's the secret ending. We're thinking it's leading up to the next saga, which is probably going to be like Foreteller Saga or something stupid like that. I don't know. I think it's okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I still feel like it's mind-fucking.
I just think it's why.
It's like, wow, another retcon about an antagonist within the Kingdom Hearts series. Whoop-de-doo.
Not to mention, I love Xigbar
like, that can happen every fucking game.
Like, I love Xigbar to death, but like, why him? Why him in particular?
He's the only one that lived out of all of them?
I don't even know. He fucking jumped off a cliff.
But he has power over space and he can teleport.
I don't know, dude. Those weapons faded.
He jumped off a cliff and then teleported away to Xehanort before the final battle.
But his weapon faded away.
Well, his weapon could have faded away with him, and he could summon it again.
But they faded.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, his death was the one that I his death was the one that I jaw dropped the most, and it just kind of like it was a big.
First of the two, I was like, wow, a character in Kingdom Hearts committing suicide.
Like I applauded. Not anymore.
Yeah.
And then this one you brought to my attention because I actually didn't get the secret ending. I got the first one, but not this one.
Okay.
Yozora. Okay.
So
this one's clearly setting up for the next Kingdom Hearts game the most.
So what happened in the secret ending is that Sora wakes up in what's basically Shibuya, Japan. Now, Riku as well wakes up in this Shibuya, Japan looking city, and they're both kind of just walking around. And then a character that looks like Yozora, who is basically like Noctis in the Kingdom Hearts universe, is just standing in a building that looks almost identical to his castle in Final Fantasy 15, and is just kind of looking at Riku. And then we see the Master of Masters, and yes, this is confirmed to be the Master of Masters from the, this was confirmed by Nomura in the Ultimanium, trying to make a heart symbol with the moon, which I thought was a cute scene. Now, as Marker stated, this secret ending was obviously to set up the next Kingdom Hearts game, which was probably just, Nomura did say that the next game is not going to be 4. There's probably going to be a side game before 4. And
he never learns. He never learns his lesson.
Huh?
Nomura never learns.
No, he doesn't.
Like,
we think he's learning, but he doesn't.
He only he addresses like a couple of complaints, such as instead of putting all the handhelds in like 10 different systems, he puts them on PS4, but he forgets to do it on Xbox.
Yeah.
And then there's also the mobile game, which is now like the most important Kingdom Hearts game in the lore. So
I mean, basically, yeah.
It's like I feel like Union Cross
I like the ending. I like the secret ending. I thought it was cool. Not my favorite secret ending. My favorite secret ending is still the one from Kingdom Hearts 1 with Roxas and Riku.
Well, I can agree with that one actually. I also like 2's secret ending.
I liked it too a lot. I really like that one. Yeah. But let's see. I think it's fine. Nomura does say that it is. Okay. So the 104 building is the same building that is used in the game The World Ends With You, which the characters from that game appear in Dream Drop. And Sora did say that he was gonna go and visit them one day. And Nomura has not confirmed if this is the same Shibuya, because Shibuya is like the World Ends With You takes place in Shibuya as well. So Shibuya is basically like central Tokyo. And it is. I just want to see them again, because I love The World Ends With You, so I just want to see the characters again. And I'm excited that if we get to see them, I'm not sure. I don't want to get my hopes up for nothing, but I'm still excited. What about you?
I just don't really care, but I know I'm most likely gonna get the next game anyway because fuck me.
You have to play The World Ends With You then, okay?
I think that's.
As soon as I get it for Switch, I will play it with you.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see how great the story is. It's an amazing story.
I feel like that game and Bravely Default have been like the 2 games in the past that people have mentioned to me is pretty good that I've been wanting to try out for a while, but
still waiting for them to remake the first one and the second one for the Switch, by the way. Square, you bunch of bitches.
Shut up, they're working on Final Fantasy VII Remake, man.
True. Whatever. Alright. Now, we already talked about how we thought they were implemented. We thought a lot of these felt like they overstayed their welcome, and some of them were alright.
I really just...
what we rate this game, since we're just about to close this discussion.
Okay, well...
Argument.
Well, like I said, like, I'm the type of... Okay, well, I didn't mention this, but I'm the type of gamer that prefers gameplay over, like, judges gameplay first over story. Because I grew up in the PlayStation 1 era, and I guess, and also the PlayStation 2 era, but I'd like to think that most of my time came from the PS1 era and the N64 times. So I've, in a way, grew up in the era where story was very minimal to almost non-existent in video games. So I've just learned to just like judge a game based on its replayabilities, basically. a lot of games that I genuinely do like or consider to be my favorites have a very high replay value in my personal opinion. And as I mentioned before, the gameplay is actually pretty excellent. It's my favorite Kingdom Hearts game in a while. Like, it's been a game that I actually genuinely like the gameplay a lot since 2, because unpopular opinion, I hate the Birth by Sleep gameplay system.
No one likes it.
Some people do, but I'm one of the people that
I know don't like it though.
Like, I just couldn't really stand it, and the fact that they reused it for like 2 other games, I really couldn't get. I am planning to replay Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, and probably make videos about those games, but for the most part, I'm not really enthused of doing it because I know that I'm not really fond of their gameplay. But this one, despite the floaty gameplay, and despite how I feel about, say, Dark Inferno, I genuinely do like the gameplay a lot. The story was more missed than hit in most cases, but the things that were really good, I thought that were pretty good, and I say specifically the characters that I really liked, i.e. Sora, Riku, and Axel primarily. But if I had to say, was this worth the wait? I feel like this is the real question. Was this worth this game was announced, what, in 2012 or 2013? It was the same time Smash 4 was announced.
2012.
Okay.
I think,
well, the E3 demo was like, it was the same time Smash 4 was announced, and I believe Pokemon X and Y as well.
I'm looking it up. First E3 trailer.
I know it was alongside Smash 4.
It was in 2013.
Yeah, same time as Smash 4. Yeah. So it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
Was it worth the 6-year gap when it was announced? Or I guess if you're a Kingdom Hearts 2 veteran, or well, I guess in a way 7 years if you want to go by as far as Dream Drop Distance, but then if you want to go as far back as KH2, was it worth the 13 years of KH3?
Story-wise, I would say no.
I'm a little bit conflicted because as much as I enjoyed the game, I can't really say the same about its story, but it's a bit of
I don't doubt you on the gameplay. I feel like when I get my hands on KH3, I'm going to enjoy it, playing it, but story-wise, I feel like maybe this is just me. I feel like I was just expecting a lot more than what they gave us.
I really feel like I shouldn't have really expected much, considering the fact that I didn't like the game that preceded it, basically. So
yes, but we should still hold Square Enix to a certain standard when it comes to making games.
But I also think that a good writer can make any story work, no matter how bad like the other story was. Like, I'm pretty sure they could have easily made KH3 a much better story. The thing is, KH3 for the most part could have
done some aspects with the story. It's just
the issue is really not much of the story of KH3 aside from the power of waking, but it's really just how they try to set up for the next games. Like,
especially with the girl in the box.
This is worse than like how the MCU tries to set up everything for future movies. Like, it just wasn't necessary. It's like, rather than focusing on making their current story good on its own and stand out, it just doesn't. But, as I said before, like, I mostly pay attention to the gameplay, so, because, I genuinely like Kingdom Hearts' gameplay. I love the speedrunning community as well. Like, I definitely keep track of those as well. So, as a game itself, like, from the gameplay standpoint, it's definitely really high. But the story does weigh it down, so I'm going to give Kingdom Hearts 3... I'm really between a 7 or 8 out of 10. I feel like that's a fair score, but I also really need to take into consideration the Disney worlds and the pacing between them, and also how long the game is. So I think I'm a little bit more lenient onto a 7, really.
Yeah, I agree.
So it passes. It's a passing grade.
Yeah, it passed. Yay, it was kind of worth it for the most part.
it was kind of worth it. But hopefully, like this, like an update or a free DLC on critical mode will probably like shift it up, because I also want the game to be harder, and maybe it'll get like a 7.5, and maybe I'll lean it to an 8 if it's actually a lot better than what I initially thought. But one thing is for sure that you can't deny that this Kingdom Hearts game is meant for the fans. So to say that I recommend this game, I mean, I could
recommend for someone who has not played the series.
Yeah, just play the other games first, but more specifically play 1 and 2, and if you want to play the other ones, in my opinion, that's completely optional. I'm currently recommending...
That you really do need to play are 1, 2, and maybe Birth by Sleep, because Birth by Sleep's story is pretty important.
But, you know, it's...
And I feel like with the other ones, you can get away with the cutscenes.
Yeah, but I currently have a friend that's actually binge playing the Kingdom Hearts games, so this is basically like the real test of it's really even worth playing all the games, because she just only finished KH1, but when Vicky hits Chain of Memories and shit like that, then we'll see how invested she'll be in the series. But in the meantime, KH3, not a bad game, but a waste of potential. Yeah, I can see that. It's a big waste of potential.
It was a full waste of potential, but I feel like it could have done more with it.
Yeah. So this has been, well, like I can tell you that my prediction was in fact correct, that this is in fact the longest SluCast we've actually ever done. I think this may have beaten our first one, but I may be wrong, considering the first one was
4 hours long.
Well, no, that's the conversation. That's our call. My recording says that we've been going on for 2 hours and 27 minutes.
Oh, wow, okay. Did you already finish the recording?
No. So, like,
okay.
Any outtakes?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love doing these discussions, and I will, be back in the future for some more.
Yeah, so, and...
I'll also let Marco know when I start my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So, attention to that.
Oh yeah, 2 announcements actually. Juanito may open a YouTube channel, and he will make videos of whatever the fuck he wants, basically.
Mostly writing.
And
writing in video games, and also analysis and deconstructions.
And as for me, this is kind of like under the radar until something happens, but if Kingdom Hearts 3 does get a critical mode, I will actually do a boss rush series videos of Kingdom Hearts 3, much like I did with KH1 and KH2. So I'm pretty excited. I'll definitely replay KH3, and like I said, if that ever happens, like, who knows if my opinion will change, because that did happen with KH2, where my opinion did change drastically with how I felt about it initially.
Yeah, I remember.
So, well, that's about it. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope this makes this actually like persuades you if you want to actually get into Kingdom Hearts, or if you're gonna pass. I won't complain either way. So, I'll see you guys in the next SluCast with whatever idea we have. It's probably gonna be either Star Wars or Avengers for Marvel, for what. The series that's been going on lately. So, in the meantime, I will catch you all later.
Goodbye.